Welcome back to the channel. This is Trendy Storm and you are watching first part of What If Naruto discovered that he had a twin sister. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe to this channel. Now wasting no more time, let's start the story.
Still reflecting on what had transpired earlier tonight, Naruto entered the Hokage's office after being duped by Mizuki. Naruto stole the Forbidden Scroll, which taught him about his burden. In addition to Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, he was accompanied by the man who gave him the majority of the truth, Iruka-sensei. The third laughed and replied, "That's all for now, Iruka, please go to the hospital and get checked out. I will make sure no harm befalls Naruto." Iruka gave him a quick embrace while grinning and saying, "Thank you, Hokage-sama, good luck, Naruto." Then Iruka turned and walked away. Following his departure, the third observed Naruto and remarked, "I am sure you have a lot of questions. I will try and answer them." After a few moments of silence, Naruto sat down and asked the most important question on his mind. "Why?" "I don't know how to explain that one," sighed the third. When someone knocked on the door, the third person said, "Enter." The third said, "What do I owe the honor of you visiting Mrs.?" as the door opened. "Can it Sarutobi? I came to see him," the woman said. When Naruto turned to face the woman behind him, he noticed that she was a redhead with green eyes who was in her late 30s or early 40s. However, what shocked him the most was that she resembled an older version of one of his classmates. The third person replied, "Are you sure you want to do that now? I mean, have you thought about?" The third was shivered by the woman's expression, and she responded, "Yes, I even brought her to tell them both the truth." "But it's too soon," the third person said. "What's going on, old man?" asked Naruto. The woman said, "He's just like his father," as her icy eyes softened and a sorrowful expression appeared on her face as she gazed at Naruto. For a moment, Naruto's eyes widened, but he remained silent out of fear that it would be cursed. The third eyebrow raised and replied, "I guess it can't be helped, but perhaps it would be best if you came in and brought your daughter with you. I'm sure she is just as curious as to what's going on." Naruto was not particularly shocked to learn who the woman's daughter was when she nodded and entered, saying, "Come on in, dear." They really did look a lot alike. "Mom, what's going on and why did you drag me here tonight?" "You know I have to get ready to impress Sasuke-kun tomorrow," the girl said, turning to face her mother. The woman was upset and replied, "Sakura, for once in your life shut up. There are more important things in life than your crush, like meeting your twin brother." Sakura gave her mother a perplexed look before turning to face Naruto and taking another look around the room before asking, "What do you mean by my twin brother? I don't have any brothers or sisters." The woman let out a sigh and said, "Sit down, dear. It's time you both learned the truth of what happened 14 years ago, the night the kyuubi attacked, and for you to both learn who your father was." Sakura replied, "But I know who my dad was. You told me already. You said his name was Arlen Haruno. You said he was a merchant that died during the kyuubi attack." "I know Sakura from school, but who are you?" was Naruto's final question, after he had had enough. The lady stated, "My real name is Kushina Uzumaki Namikaze, former ninja of the land of Whirlpool and widow of Minato Namikaze, the Yondaime Hokage, your father and the man who sealed kyuubi in you to save the village." While this was happening, the third had quietly settled in, already sensing that things would be difficult, and had begun surreptitiously channeling Chakra into a security seal that prevented anyone else from molding Chakra, entering the room, or leaving. Sakura said, "Mom, what are you talking about? You're not making any sense. How can you be his mom? You're my mom and I've been an only child my entire life. What do you mean by sealing kyuubi? The Yondaime killed kyuubi?" Naruto was numb and wide-eyed. The third cleared his throat and replied, "Actually, Sakura, what you know about the defeat of the kyuubi by the Yondaime is an edited version. I passed a law stating no one was to tell the younger generation, so that way your brother could live a halfway normal life. However, because of the ignorance of the villagers and some ninja, they see Naruto as the kyuubi and not what he is. The prison for the kyuubi. The truth is nobody can kill a demon because it is immortal. Your father, the Yondaime Hokage, came up with a forbidden sealing method to make it where it can be killed. He made it mortal by sealing it in your twin brother, who is Naruto. When Naruto dies, so does the kyuubi." Sakura's brain was processing the information at a rate of 100 miles per second. "If what you're saying is true, then why have I had to grow up alone, hated, abused, beaten, starved, swore at, and told how I never should have been born?" Naruto said in a low voice, "Until Mizuki tried to kill me a few hours ago, I didn't even know why I was hated, but now you're telling me that not only do I have a sister, but my mother is also alive, and my father is the man who put the reason I'm hated in me. I asked earlier, and I'll ask again. Why? Why me? Why was I chosen? Why was I lying to? Why was I abandoned? Why?" His voice rose with anger as he spoke. causing everyone to flinch at the end as he fell to the ground, holding his knees to his face to conceal his anguish. Sakura was shocked by what she had heard about his life and questioned how much of it was true. She was also wondering why she had been lied to, why her mother had lied to her all of her life, why she had never known she had a brother, and why she had been lied to about who her father was. Naruto interrupted her thoughts with a gentle, whiny voice. While crying, Kushina said, "I'm sorry, son, we had no choice." Sakura gasped as Naruto looked up. She had never witnessed anything like Naruto's eyes and face, which were filled with such sadness and rage, and she prayed that she would never see it again. He had red and blue flashes in his eyes. Kushina and the Hokage both noticed this. "No choice, no choice. What the hell do you mean you had no choice?" "I had no choice in the matter. I was born, and on the same day any chance I had of happiness was destroyed by a man I grew up worshipping, who I find out is my father, and you said you had no choice. Do you even care for me? Did you ever care for me?" Naruto said in an agonized voice. He then turned and attempted to leave, but the door would not open, so he ran over to the window and attempted to exit, but it would not allow him. When he attempted to toss a chair through the window, it simply bounced off and onto the ground. After failing at Kage Bunshin, Naruto became enraged and yelled, "What the hell is going on? Why can't I get out of here?" The third individual replied, "I have made it where you can't leave until you calm down and know why." Being impatient, Naruto attempted to break the window one last time before looking down and saying, "Fine, I'm waiting," in a defeated and lifeless voice. The third individual replied, "Sakura, do you understand that your brother is just the prison of the kyuubi and not the kyuubi? Of course, who could think he could be some big bad demon? Besides, everyone knows that a weapon sealed in a scroll is not the same weapon," Sakura said, glancing at Naruto, who was staring at her with lost eyes. "I guess I should tell you what happened the day kyuubi attacked," the third said, grinning as he glanced at Naruto, who was observing his sister with conflicted feelings. However, he noticed the expression he gave his mother and stopped smiling. Rewind. Konoha was only a few hours away from the great beast kyuubi. Since it had been moving in this direction for almost a week, the majority of the villagers had made the decision to wait until the last minute to depart in case it changed its mind. Presently, the Yondaime Hokage of Konoha and his predecessor, the third Hokage, were seated in the hospital's waiting area. "Are you sure that this is what must be done to stop it?" inquired the third. "According to Minato, I am afraid so. There is no other way, without fearing that it will break free and attack again." The third person asked, "What will Kushina do? I mean, nobody knew you were married or anything except me and Jiraiya and the other witness." Minato continued, "She going to hate me for this, but I can't stand the thought of her having to deal with what I know this village will do. I hope that they see him as a hero, but I know they want. I found out secretly during her last exam that she's having twins, a boy and a girl. She does not know it, wanting to be surprised, and all I don't want her to find out, so unless she discovers it on her own, I want you to make her think that she only had the daughter. The boy's name will be Naruto Uzumaki. If she asked why he has her maiden name, say I chose it since he was an orphan and needed a name. You know that's low. I mean, it's not just bad for her but both of your kids," the third said, glancing at him. Minato continued, "And you know as well as I do that if my enemies were to find out about any of them, all three of them will be in danger. I can only hope that by doing this that all three can live without my enemies finding out about them. Kushina and I already came up with a new name to hide her and our daughter with. I understand you wanting to protect them all, but don't you feel that this is too much for your son?" the third said, giving him a sorrowful look. Minato let out a sigh. If he's allowed to live with his mother and sister, the people would shun all three in them and would hurt his sister and mother just to get to him. This is the only way I can think of to do this. The third replied, "Why can't you just choose a random orphan to do this to then? Only someone of my family will be able to handle the fox's chakra without being completely corrupted by it," Minato said after a brief period of silence. The third person inquired, "What do you mean? As far as I know you were an orphan yourself. Why would someone of your family line be different from other people?" As he stood up and walked out of the third, Minato grinned and said, "Just a hunch. There's never been that many blondes in this village. I got to go. Here comes the nurse." Final flashback. "So my father made the choice, huh? If what you're saying is true, how does she know I'm her son then?" said Naruto as he stood there. Kushina replied, "The only other person who knew we were married besides the third and Jiraiya figured it out and told me, but by the time he figured it out you were already in the ninja academy. I had to call in a few favors and trick a doctor at the hospital by saying that I needed a paternity test on Sakura blood because someone sent me a letter saying there was a mix-up the night she was born. I had a friend take a blood sample from you after the attack on you when you were 7 on your birthday and had the doctor run the test. It came back a match after that I confronted the third here about it and he told me the truth but told me that I could not do anything or claim you because he had already had you declared an adult. Not only that, but if you were to be claimed by me, the council would have enough power to overturn his law that was protecting you. I had no choice but to watch from afar. If that's true, Mom, then what's changed now? Sakura inquired. Kushina replied, simple. The council can't touch him now that he is an official genin. Even if he fails to pass the next test, he can take it again when the next class graduate, but he is officially a genin initiate. Naruto replied, how did you know that? I mean, if it were not for Mizuki I still would have failed. Sakura couldn't have told you because I only got my Hiat a little while ago. According to the third, I am also curious as to how you found out so fast. Kushina stated, the person who told me about Naruto being my son was also the same person who called me earlier and said that Naruto had passed and Iruka had given his Hiat. After giving it some thought, Naruto remarked, Ayame and her father are the only ones who would be aware of that. Sakura inquired, who? Kushina stated, the owner of the ramen stand and his daughter. He was the other witness to our wedding and was also the one who helped me and your father get together in the first place. He said he had a feeling about it since the first time Naruto stepped into his stand, but it was not until Naruto started pranking that confirmed it. When Naruto realized that he finally had a family thanks to the old man and his daughter, he was astounded and grinned. Stunned, Sakura questioned, what would his pranking have to do with anything? Aside from the names people call him because of the kyuubi, he has earned 2 other nicknames from many of the ninja who don't see him as the kyuubi. One is the #1 hyperactive knucklehead surprise ninja, the third said. Laughing, Naruto was also intrigued by that. Kushina replied, the other one is a title he stole from his father. As he became more curious about his family and forgot he was angry, Naruto questioned, what was it? The third grinned as he said, the prank master from hell. What's going to happen now? Is the question that has been bothering Naruto the most lately. He sat down, looked around, and asked. Sakura accepted the reality and, strangely enough, felt good about calling someone a brother as she turned to face Naruto and remarked, you're going to live with us, brother. Naruto was taken aback and strangely delighted, but regrettably, nothing good ever goes as planned. The third sighed and said, I'm afraid that can't happen. Not yet, anyway. Shocked and agitated, Kushina questioned, why? The third individual replied, because you can't afford to support him as well as the threat someone will try and use you to get to him or Sakura. You mean you told me I have family and now I can't be with them? Yelled Naruto as he turned to face the third. What must I do in order to be happy at last? The third person said quietly, remember the last thing I told you your father told me before you went to the delivery room. After giving it some thought, Naruto remarked, something about blondes, but what of it? Kushina asked, what do you have planned, Hokage-sama? After glancing at the third. The third said, Sakura, Naruto, after reaching into a drawer and taking out 2 slips of paper, would you kindly channel some chakra into these papers for me? If my predictions are correct, I will understand what your father intended, and it will also mean that you can all live together as a family and use your real last name as soon as I can make the necessary arrangements. As Sakura and Naruto gazed at the paper in their hands, the third smirked and remarked, so I was right. Kushina inquired, what? There is another bloodline that used to exist in Konoha, one that is specific to one individual. The third said the man in question had 1 child, who in turn had 2 children. It was believed to have died out because of a daughter who did not inherit his bloodline and a son who died during the war. One now realized that it didn't, and it also validated my long-held theory. You could say that each of you has some sort of bloodline. I have a bloodline, Sakura remarked. What is it? I'll tell you in a moment, the third said. Sakura, look at your card. It's wet. You see you have a connection to water, but I don't think that's a bloodline. As you can see, I now recognize your grandmother, although she is regarded as a genius in the ninja community. Her flawless chakra control has made her legendary. She always has perfect control, regardless of the amount of chakra she possesses. According to what I've read in the academy, yours is identical, but it could be mistaken for having tiny chakra pools. Not really knowing what that meant or would accomplish, Sakura remarked, so you're saying my bloodline is perfect chakra control? Naruto said, well, what about me? After the third nod, what does this mean, exactly? The third grinned and remarked, you are very unique, Naruto. Your father picked you to hold the kyuubi, and I now understand why. You have the ability to control demons because of your bloodline. The card appears to be divided in half. This indicates that you have a wind affinity, which is uncommon in the fire country but not out of the ordinary or a bloodline. However, your card also became wet and turned to dirt according to what your sister told you. Dirt is actually earth, and wet means water. However, if you look closely, the card also did something else. What is it? After everyone had examined it, Sakura remarked, it looks like wood. You both are descendants of the Shodiame Hokage of Konoha, who was the brother of the Nidaime Hokage of Konoha. And your grandmother is none other than the legendary Tsunade of the Sanins, Kushina said, gasping, turning to face the third, who nodded his head. I'm not sure how your father learned, but I firmly think that the Yondaime's sacrifice would have been in vain if you had been any other child and would have perished in the ceiling. Naruto replied, well, that's all good and all, but how does that make it where I can be with my mom and sister? Because, the third said, she will return as soon as I can send her a message informing her of our findings, and after we conduct a blood test to confirm my suspicions, Naruto may be subject to the clan restoration law. All 13 of Konoha's clans are forced to defend you and your family. As a result, they are required by law to assist in protecting you. Even if they despise you because of the kyuubi, they will be compelled to leave Konoha and forfeit all of their clan rights if they don't comply. Wait, if you were put under that law, then that means that, Kushina said, her eyes widening as she realized what that meant. Yes, he will need to have at least 2 wives, the third person said. If the Uchiha activates his Sharingan, the same thing will happen. What? Sakura asked. Why would Sasuke-kun need 2 wives, and what do you mean by that? The third stated, the law was established to keep any of Konoha's original clans from going extinct. There are a few exceptions, but generally speaking, it only applies to bloodline clans. The Shodiame family and his brother were both considered bloodlines, so a clan could only be included if they truly had the active bloodline and if there were fewer than 3 male members remaining. Even if your perfect chakra control is a bloodline Sakura, you won't be forced to marry multiple men because women cannot be put under the law due to fear of rapes. Naruto asked, so how do I get to know how to use my bloodline? After Sakura nodded. The third stated, you are to come here, Naruto, after your team placements tomorrow. I'll have someone pick you up and start training you with it. I'll also get you some authentic ninja clothes. Both you and I are aware that the only reason you wear orange is because no one else would sell you anything else. Sakura looked at Naruto and said, Naruto, look, I want to say I'm sorry for everything I done to you in the academy. She was shocked, remembering all the times she had made fun of his attire and feeling sick. Naruto grinned and said, Sakura, you earned my forgiveness earlier when you acknowledged that I am me and not Kyuubi and called me brother. Even though some of what you and others said hurt, I could never be angry with you again. You have no idea how much I long to start a family. I apologize for persistently asking you out on a date. It appears that you never accepted that it was for the best. Sakura remarked, my mother actually advised me not to accept. Now I understand why, she says, turning to face her mother. I have a strange question, Naruto says, scratching his head. Actually, too, how is Sakura pink if your hair is red and mine is blonde? I also want to know who is older. Yeah, you told me I got it from dad, Sakura replied. The truth is that my hair used to be pink, but as I grew older, it turned red, Kushina said. According to my mother, you are older than Naruto, as evidenced by the fact that Sakura's birth certificate states that she was born on October 11th rather than October 10th. Unfortunately, your hair perfectly matches your name, Naruto remarked. I get to be a big brother, at least. Kushina gave her a forehead slap and declared, you are unquestionably your father's son. How else could you be so oblivious to the fact that the Hinata girl is fixated on you? Naruto chuckled and retorted, no, I am fully aware of Hinata's obsession with me, and Hiyashi formally instructed me to pretend I was unaware of it. She has already found a partner. He said that I would become a slave to the Hyuga clan for attacking the heiress and that, in accordance with their laws, I would be branded with the cagebird seal, which any member of the main branch could use on me and torture me indefinitely if I ever attempted to date her, tell her of this threat, have someone tell her, or be more than just a friend to her. I wouldn't die from it because I could heal myself, but I would welcome it. Old man, did I forget anything? Nope, replied the third, that was about all he said. All right, so let me get this straight, you knew that she liked you and you ignored her feelings because you don't like her, Sakura said, startled. Why didn't you simply tell her? She would have paid attention. Really, would you listen to Sasuke if he told you he did not like you? Naruto asked, glancing at Sakura. Of course I would, but I know he likes me, Sakura remarked. All right, Naruto said, I have a wager for you tomorrow. I'll tell Sasuke that if he tells you that he likes you or not, and you accept his wishes, I'll tell Hinata if, on the other hand, you don't accept his response, you'll have to give me dating advice if and when I find someone I like, since you love to tell me how foolish I am about women. He extended his hand and said, deal. Sakura took his hand, looked at him, and said, deal. How I wish you two could have grown up together, Kushina sighed. In any case, how can we proceed until Tsunade arrives? The third said, I will permit you to visit my clan compound every Wednesday and Sunday at 10 a.m. and spend the day there if you all promise not to disclose your relationship or the identities of your other relatives. They will remain silent because I my son Asuma, and my grandson Konohamaru are the only residents. Looks like this is the only way we will get a chance to be together, Kushina said. Glancing at her kids, what are your thoughts? According to Naruto, I will take what I can get. I suppose, the baka has a point, Sakura said, nodding. With a whine, Naruto remarked, don't call me a baka, Sakura-chan. I apologize for spoiling this family gathering, but I have to go home soon. The third said, keep in mind that you are not allowed to discuss your family, your bloodlines, his private training, or kyuubi with anyone. Does that make sense? After the three exchanged glances, Kushina uttered the words, we understand. Good. The third said, I must ask that you continue to keep up appearances, Kushina and Sakura. Don't worry. I have a plan for you and Naruto that will give you time to get to know one another better. Kushina even kissed her son on the forehead and apologized, and Sakura nods, wondering how he knew she was asking how much of her brother was an act and how much was real as she and her mother left, but not before giving Naruto a hug, and both of them were shocked when Naruto stiffened both times, realizing that he must have never had contact like that. I'm sorry, Naruto, but I knew that if you knew the truth about them you would have wanted to protect them from everything, and you're not strong enough to do that. Not yet, the third said, squinting his eyes as Naruto looked at him after they had left. That's why I didn't tell you the truth. Glancing into the eyes of the village chief, Naruto stepped forward, placed his hands on the desk, and uttered, if I am not strong enough to protect my family, then tell me how to do it to become strong enough. The third individual replied, come here tomorrow after team selections and you will begin then. With a nod, Naruto inquired, is that all? Yes, the third replied, for the time being. Naruto pivoted and walked away following Naruto's departure. The third sighed and asked, what do you think, Yamato? The boy is strong, but the kyuubi chakra still influences him a little when extremely emotional, and Anbu said as a shadow vanished, I think that teaching him how to use his bloodline will aid in that. I don't care how you do it, the third said, nodding. I want you to exert as much pressure on him as you can before Tsunade shows up, but keep it private. If necessary, use the Forest of Death, but remain on the west side. I'll let Anko know that you're testing your bloodline there, so she won't come. I worry that she might destroy this village if she saw him in his weaker physical, mental, and emotional states. I'm not sure how or when she gave birth to Minato, but it was undoubtedly her because her brother passed away when he was 13 and had no time to spend with anyone else. Note that Tsunade is 56, Minato is 27, Naruto is 14, and Sakura is 14. All right, Hokage-sama, Yamato said. Should he inquire, should I disclose how I am descended from him? Yes, the third replied, show your trust by doing this. I'll also give you money so you can buy him some clothes and equipment. That's all. Dismissed. With a nod, Yamato departed. The third sighed, thinking of the recently departed family, and said, I'm sorry to all of you. Sakura and her mother went home in silence, and when they arrived, Kushina rushed to her room and shut the door. Startling Sakura, Sakura locked the door and proceeded to her mother's room, where she saw her sitting on her bed, sobbing, and holding a picture. When Sakura approached, she noticed that it was a photo of her and Naruto together, and it appeared as though Naruto was asking her out. Her mother remarked, this is the only photo I have of you two together, and she began to cry once more. Ino took it and used it as a joke to bug you. What's true, Mom? Sakura asked, glancing at her mother. I was initially informed that you were a civilian, but I've since learned that you were a ninja. I was a Junin from Whirlpool until we had a civil war and my family was killed off, Kushina remarked, wiping her eyes and letting out a sigh. Since I had heard so much about Konoha during the war and its subsequent prosperity, I asked the cage for permission to visit. I wanted a fresh start, so I traveled to Konoha. Your father, the Hokage, agreed to let me join after I met him, but he said I would only be permitted to enter specific areas during my probationary period and would not be permitted to complete any missions until the end of that period. I accepted since I wanted to put killing and all the other risks out of my mind in order to make some money while I awaited missions. I started working at the ramen stand. Strangely enough, your brother and father shared the same appetite. He frequently stopped by the ramen stand to get food, and after we struck up a conversation, he eventually asked me out on a date. Sakura and she both laughed at the time, but then stopped. I told him only if it wasn't ramen. The date was ideal, and we went on one after another. Kushina sighed. He proposed to me a month after we began dating on top of Hokage Mountain. We were married in front of just 2 witnesses, with a third performing the ceremony. We didn't tell anyone about us and kept everything under wraps. After I became pregnant, one of his medic nin students from his genin team was informed about us, but she kept quiet and gave birth to you. She tragically perished that night of the Kyuubi attack when a man dying of blood loss lost his mind and killed her with a kunai. I then stopped being a ninja, losing my family so soon after losing the man I love. I killed a civilian because I couldn't stand it any longer. The people who attended our wedding were the only ones who were aware of the truth about me. The third gave me a false background, changed my name to Haruno, and let me work at the library so he could give me extra money to help pay for your care. The rest is history. After I learned about your brother," Sakura asked, "Mom, what was his life like?" After being shocked to hear the truth, his behavior tonight gives the impression that everything I know about him is false. With a sigh, Kushina remarked, "Sakura, that response is not attractive. I know you won't like it, but I'll tell you anyway." A lump in Sakura's throat had to be swallowed, and she said, "I need to know, Mom." With a sigh, Kushina rose from her bed and went to her dresser, where she opened a drawer and took out a folder. She then turned to Sakura and said, "That's the official report of his life until age 7. When I attempted to convince the third to live with us, he gave it to me." Sakura gave her mother one final glance before examining the folder and reading it slowly for 4 hours before putting it down and asking, "How did he stay sane? Why didn't he murder himself or everyone?" The statement, "You must have missed what happened when he was 4 inches," was made by Kushina. Fortunately, it was categorized by age, so Sakura looked again and quickly located it, saying, "Split personality." "Yeah, Ino dad entered his head and shut his other personality away," Kushina said. From what the third said, it was composed of all his darker feelings. Since then, he has always had that foolish smile on his face because everything, including hate, still goes there. The third has been concerned about the potential consequences in the event that the seal preventing it from breaking. Perplexed, Sakura inquired, "What would happen?" With a sigh, Kushina said, "Consider it this way, he has only had half of his brain functioning all this time. Both sides of his brain would struggle for dominance. If the seal broke, Naruto's skills will improve dramatically regardless of the outcome of the battle, perhaps even turning from a fool to a genius, even though he isn't in some ways, or changing from the jovial person you typically see to someone who only wants to exact revenge on everyone." Sakura asked, "Why does all this happen to him?" In shock and sadness. "I have asked myself that same question ever since I found out he's been alive," Kushina remarked, casting a downward glance. "So what do we do?" Sakura inquired. "Are you serious about being a ninja, dear?" Kushina asked, glancing at her. Sakura replied, "Obviously. Why? I know that old monkey of a hokage pretty well," Kushina remarked, "and he won't reveal the secret unless Naruto, you, and I are all strong enough to defend ourselves. Not only Naruto, you and I both need to put in a lot of training if you're serious about becoming ninjas and eventually having your brother in your life." Sakura asked, "What do I have to do?" as she glanced at her mother. "The one thing you might hate me for," Kushina sighed. "You have to put more of an emphasis on training and building strength than on love. Although I can teach you, it will be your responsibility to practice and get to the point where you can defeat 20 or more enemies at once. You must possess the strength, speed, agility, cunning, and reflexes necessary to move quickly. Getting there will be a nightmare, and you will constantly need to strengthen yourself every time you encounter an enemy. You have to become twice as strong just to keep up with them. You have to be prepared to kill as well. Do you have that kind of willpower?" she asked, her voice shifting from gentle and caring to icy and heartless as her eyes met her daughter's, revealing to her that she was gravely serious. Sakura asked, "Is this the life that I am choosing, Mom?" After being startled by the expression in her mother's eyes and recognizing something she had never seen in her before. "The eyes of someone who has killed their emotions, the life to be the murderer of my feelings as well as a murderer if necessary." "No," Kushina remarked, "if you do it for the right reason. When your father said, protecting what is important to you, he said at best nothing is impossible. If you do that, you are acting inappropriately if you are doing it for any other reason." Sakura said, "I will do what I must," after swallowing the lump in her throat. "If not for myself, then for you and my brother." "Good," Kushina said. "Get some rest." Sakura asked, "What about Naruto?" as she took the folder from her daughter and hung it up. "Training begins tomorrow? How is his training?" "Don't worry, your brother is actually stronger than the two of us combined right now," Kushina said with a laugh. "According to what I've heard, he defeated a Chunin earlier tonight by beating the living daylights out of him and using 1000 kage bunshin, but he did not kill. Although his control is different, he is most likely Junin in terms of raw power. Right now you are hardly Genin, and I am about low Chunin. I hate to say it, but you must accept the reality, face it, and go beyond your limitations." Sakura inquired, "Wait, if Naruto is that strong, then why did he fail the Genin test?" Sakura, "Think about it," Kushina said. "In addition to having half of his brain sealed and having more chakra in his body than all the people in this village combined, he was not properly trained because his teachers were mistreating him. He also lacked chakra control. He would already be at cage level if he could master his chakra. I've heard that the fox also loses control, and because your brother has so much chakra, It appears that he will never be able to execute a standard bunshin. Sakura nodded and went to her room, but she had a terrible night's sleep because she kept seeing flashbacks of Naruto's life. After falling asleep that night, Naruto woke up to the sound of water dripping, looked around, and saw a large tunnel with a light emanating from it. He quickly made his way toward the light and soon found the kyuubi cage. After blinking, the kyuubi's form materialized, and Naruto uttered the words, "So it would seem that he is here at last." He said, "So it would seem," as a cloaked figure emerged from the darkness, a black cloak covering his head and body to conceal his identity, to believe that this boy will either save or destroy the world. Naruto looked up and said, "Okay. I can tell the giant fox is kyuubi, so I figure I must be in the seal or in my mind, but who are you and how did you get here?" When the cloaked figure took off his hood, Naruto recognized him but thought he was crazy or something. "I have always been here and will always be here," he said. "Do you honestly believe that you could endure the ordeal you had to endure without facing any repercussions? I represent the darker side of you. You have repressed all of your feelings throughout your life and never let them out. That's how I came to be. Your actual power is inside me. Along with every bit of suffering, rage, and sadness, you have to take action if you want it." To which Naruto replied, "What must I do?" "You must beat me. If you win you get all your true power, but if you lose I get control of your body and I will get revenge on everyone who has been mean to me and you will be dead," the figure said, glancing into the kyuubi cage as Naruto followed his gaze. Naruto looked up and said, "That has got to be the stupidest thing I have ever heard. I am already strong enough without this true power you speak of, so why would I risk it?" "It's your choice. Don't try it before you're ready because I will kill you if you fight me, but there will come a time when you will want my power," the smirking figure said before fading away. After giving Kyuubi a quick glance, Naruto asked, "So what's your story?" Kyuubi laughed and said, "I don't give a fuck about you. Besides the fact you die I die, and I have made a deal with your doppelganger here. The moment you try and get to your real power and lose, he will release me and we will take our revenge. If you win I will still try and get free, and if I do I would gladly take my time eating your flesh and drinking your blood. Now go." And Naruto was compelled to leave his mind. Naruto woke up in his bed after blinking, but as he got out of bed, he realized something was amiss. He had no recollection of a man standing at the foot of his bed and observing him. As he reached under his pillow and took a kunai he kept hidden there, Naruto questioned, "Who are you and why are you in my room?" The individual replied, "My name is Yamato. The Hokage told me to come and help you with your bloodline." Looking at the clock, Naruto released the kunai and remarked, "I thought I was supposed to meet you after meeting my team, not at 5 a.m. As he walked out of the room, Yamato said, "Get dressed and I'll tell you a jutsu that will let us do both." As he hurriedly got up and prepared for the day, Naruto blinked and thought, "Okay, new jutsu and him knowing about my bloodline, time to get dressed." When he entered his kitchen after getting ready for the day, he noticed a plate of food sitting there and Yamato eating from a plate across from it. Naruto sat down immediately and began to eat eggs and bacon while sipping a glass of orange juice. Yamato said, "Okay, while you eat I will give you a heads up. I know everything including who your parents and sister are. Relax, I'm one of the Hokage's most trusted Anbu and have watched you a few times in your life and I don't think ill of you and will keep your secrets. As a sign of trust I will tell you mine. I have your bloodline also, but I was not born with it. An S-rank missing nin named Orochimaru, who was one of the Sanins, gave it to me by stealing DNA from the Shodiami Hokage while I was an infant like you were when your father put kyuubi in you. I know a total of 10 jutsu for this bloodline, but you can do a lot more than that with this bloodline. The Shodem only left 4 on record and I will teach you those 4. The other 6 I created with time and practice and are my personal jutsu. I won't teach you them because I don't want you to rely on them. I want you to create your own. When you have created a total of 10 for your bloodline, then we will trade 1 jutsu each, so that way you can help restore your clan jutsu as well as allow me something out of this deal for helping you, since I had no one to help me with this bloodline deal." After giving it some thought, Naruto said, "Deal, Yamato-sensei." Yamato laughed and replied, "Just call me Yamato. You can't tell anyone what I have told you, and you can't call me sensei or tell anyone I am training you because they will be able to tell you have this bloodline. I will also help you with controlling kyuubi chakra. Now let's begin. Since you were done eating, did you get to read what exactly the Kage Bunshin jutsu does?" According to Naruto, it makes a clone. After chuckling, Yamato remarked, "It does more than that. Create one and I will show you what I mean." After Naruto made one, Yamato stood up, approached it, and stabbed the clone, causing it to burst into flames. He said, "Sasuke is better than you." As Naruto put it, "I'm better than Sasuke." Yamato inquired, "How did you know what I said to your clone?" Naruto scratched his head and uttered, "Because how did I know what you said?" Yamato stated, That's one of the secrets of Kage Bunshin. When it is dispelled or destroyed, you get all the information it gained. It will help us do a lot of training in a short amount of time and also allow you to meet Eugenin team as well as come with me to train, create another one, and let's go. Even though it was only 5:30 a.m., Naruto made one and sent it to the academy right away after grinning when he heard what Kage Bunshin was capable of. Sakura's mother had woken her up at 5 in the morning, and instead of her usual dress, she was dressed in what appeared to be a Junin outfit, minus the vest, and all black, save for some strange-looking white bandages on her arms and legs that weren't there for binding. Put those on. I know you are going to hate me, but I gave you my old weight set. Weights will not only help you with your chakra reserves, making them bigger, but also your speed and strength when you get dressed. Come eat breakfast, she said, tossing a bundle on the foot of Sakura's bed before heading downstairs. When Sakura woke up, she noticed that her mother had given her a fresh outfit along with a pair of white bandages like her mother. Sakura hurriedly dressed, applied the bandages, and went downstairs. Sakura joined her mother as she was eating when she arrived. Okay, I'm sure you're wondering what those white bandages are. They're the weights I told you about. They're called demon weights in Whirlpool Channel. About half of your chakra into them, dear, Kushina said after they had finished eating in silence for a few minutes. Sakura was confused but did and suddenly felt heavy, and her mom said, okay, you just set them to your body weight. They have special seals on them that will make it drain your chakra of 2% every 5 seconds. Your body will be forced to start making chakra faster and faster. With just these weights on, you will triple your chakra supply in a week's time at first. Be careful with your training and make sure you stop before you run out of chakra or turn them off, because if you pass out from chakra exhaustion with these on and you don't turn them off or someone turns them off for you, you will die. That is why they are called demon weights, because if you are not careful they will kill you like a demon would. I am sure you noticed they also got heavier. These weights will start off at 10% of your body weight, so since you weighed 110 pounds, your weights now weigh 11 pounds each. Once you get used to wearing that amount of weights, then you will have to buy some new ones. I would suggest go up 10 pounds each limb every time you need to go up, so that way your demon weights will only go up a little more. Also, now I want you to do these hand signs, dear. Sakura began to do the 5 hand signs slowly as she held the final one. When you do the last sign of Habi, you must think of what you want your cloths to look like. This genjutsu is called Dater's Desire. It's a genjutsu that was first made by a friend of mine when she wanted to get ready for a date but did not have time to get home to change. The best part is the Sharingan can't see through it because it's such a low level one that it can't tell the difference between the genjutsu and a person normal cloths. I don't care if you show your outfit you have on, but the genjutsu is to cover the weights. If people found out about those, they would try and take them from you to learn the secret. Since no one here has ever seen them, those are only given to Chunin or higher in Whirlpool who have made it through 5 years of service, besides that they were a village's secret. Sakura responds with a nod. Why'd I got the feeling my life is going to be filled with that word from now on, secrets. Kushina said. For a while, yes. Now that we have both done the genjutsu and you have your weights and I have mine, let's start out with endurance. I want you to start running and don't stop. Keep track of how many times you make it around the village as well as how long you can run, and also use chakra to help in your speed as well as run your chakra out faster. Tomorrow you will do the same, but try and go 10 minutes longer and at least 2 laps more. Each day you need to go longer and faster. You will be tired before you have to get to the academy at 8. I am also going to do it, but I will be going faster most likely, so you may see me a few times but don't talk. Every time you feel like you're tired, keep going. Fatigue will be your new best friend. Oh, and before I forget, if you need to turn those weights off, just wipe a little blood across the seal on the end of the one on your left arm. It will shut all of them off. If you don't pass out, then wait 20 minutes to restore your chakra and just send a little chakra back into them to start using them again. I want you to get to where you only take them off if you're going to shower. See ya. And she ran out the door fast. As she went outside and locked up the house before running away, Sakura exclaimed, "Whoa." After leaving his apartment, Naruto and Yamato went to the Wolf Clan weapon shop and went inside. Shops open early, around 4 a.m., even though it was 6 a.m. by now, in case ninjas need to restock before departing town. So what are we doing here? Inquired Naruto. Yamato stated, we're here to get you some supplies to help with your training, but to also get you some new cloths that don't scream kill me. When they entered, Naruto nodded and looked down. Naruto thought he would hear shouting or orders to leave when they arrived, but instead he looked up to see a girl a year older than him sitting at the counter. She grinned and said, help yourself, and if you need anything just ask. Naruto turned to face Yamato, who replied, go ahead and get what you need, don't worry about the bill, the Hokage is handling it, no orange. After nodding, Naruto begins searching for supplies with a little assistance from Yamato. He quickly locates some black shinobi style pants with integrated weapon holsters along with the built-in body armor. He also received some black shirts. Additionally, he discovered a black leather jacket with padding on the shoulders, 2 metal button pockets on each side, and a kanji on the back that read, "Life and Death." He made the decision to obtain it as well after recalling his dream. The sword was something he had never seen before, and as he continued to walk around the store, he noticed a sign that read, "Free sword to any who can open it." It was a deep blue color. When he lifted it and removed it from the sheath, he discovered that it was also solid blue. I'm not saying it was your typical blue, though it was sky blue now. The type that appears on a perfect day, though it had a design. The sheath was identical to the sword. A mountain covered in snow and a lone bonsai tree perched atop it were depicted in the design. With the sun appearing to be setting in the distance, the sword's hilt was made of wood, but it had a distinct feel. It featured a blindfolded woman holding a weight scale in her hand and was made of metal, but it was as light as wood. Naruto responded, "Excuse me, but is this sign for real? Is this sword really free if you can open it?" After getting some weights, Yamato turned to face Naruto, and the girl behind the counter appeared to have seen a ghost as Naruto swung his sword and yelled, "Dad, come here fast." When a brown-haired man entered the room, Naruto, terrified that he had done something wrong, put the sword back on the stand and said, "I'm sorry, I hope I did not do anything wrong, I will put it back." The individual replied, "What is it, Tenten? Why did you scream like that?" Tenten pointed to the sword behind Naruto, who appeared frightened, and said, "The sword, he opened it." Given that they were friends and that he knew Tenten would not lie about anything like that, the man looked at Naruto, knew who he was, and did not despise the boy because he believed in the Yondaime. He said, "Boy, open the sword." His voice was emotionless. Yamato, who knew the man, said, "It's okay, Naruto," after noticing that he was anxious. "Who are you, boy?" "Don't say Naruto Uzumaki," the man said as Naruto nods and turns to walk back. He then picks up the sword and pulls on it, causing it to open. "I'm aware of that name, but I also know it's not totally accurate." "I'm sorry, sir, what are you talking about?" said Yamato. "Name's Dustin." The man said, "This store is mine. I now want to know how that boy was able to open a sword that should only be opened by a Yondaime relative. I want to know how the Yondaime can open the sword that I designed for him 2 months prior to the Kyuubi attack. It was intended as a gift for a relative. I ask again because the seal on it should indicate that he shouldn't, unless he was related to Minato. Who are you?" After glancing at Dustin, Naruto turned to face Yamato and uttered the words, "It's your choice." "I say he's his son," Tenten said. "If the Kyuubi's whiskers were removed, he would resemble a miniature Yondaime father." Dustin glanced at his daughter as Naruto winced and asked, "How do you know about that?" Inquiring, Tenten said, "Know about what? Are you aware of the Kyuubi?" inquired Yamato. Tenten remarked, "Well, based on the two guys' conversation, I assumed it was well known. Last night, a few ninja entered and declared that the Kyuubi brat had gone too far this time and that they would complete the task that the Yondaime had begun. They mentioned retaliation in a scroll shortly after. I overheard another person stating that they needed to locate both the scroll and Naruto Uzumaki. I simply connected the dots, and when my father mentioned his name, I assumed he was the Kyuubi child they were referring to, but I'm not entirely sure why." With a sigh, Naruto said in a lifeless voice, "I was born on the same night that Kyuubi attacked in order to save the village. My father, the Yondaime, sealed Kyuubi in me. Everyone views me as the Kyuubi. Even though he requested that I be viewed as a hero, I was unaware of my dad or the fact that I had Kyuubi in me until last night." He puts the sword away and leaves his belongings where they were before heading toward the front of the store, saying, "I'm ready to go when you are." "Wait," Dustin said, "you left your belongings behind." "It doesn't matter," Naruto stated. He left the store and started to run, saying, "No matter what, the only thing anyone will ever see me as is the Kyuubi." Tenten inquired, "What was that all about?" "I have to go check on him," Yamato said. "I apologize for any inconvenience." As he placed Naruto's belongings and the weights he had picked up on the counter, he said, "Can you put all this together and I will come pick it up later?" After Dustin nods, Yamato walks away with a leaf shushin. Tenten said, "Dad, what's wrong?" "That boy has had a bad life," Dustin sighed. "Have you noticed how our sales of weapons increase around October 10th every year? People want to be prepared so they can kill him if they find him. I made us a ninja-only store in an attempt to prevent civilians from obtaining the weapons, but that was all I could do. When I did that, it also prevented him from entering to get supplies for himself. He is wearing orange clothing because they hope to track him down and harm him. Even though I can tell which ones are getting supplies for supplies and which are to hurt him, I am powerless to do anything but give the Hokage a list of their names because we cannot afford to damage our customer relations by closing. The Kyuubi and the sealing were supposed to be known to everyone who was already aware of them. People have abused and attempted to kill him throughout his life. and he never even knew why, as he stated, because he was unaware until last night. I suppose it was a delicate topic when you were discussing it so casually and he had just learned about it. But why can't people tell that he and the kyuubi are different? Tenten exclaimed in shock. Even I am aware of the distinction between an item that is sealed and one that is not. You cannot use a scroll that contains kunais to kill someone. They would still be two distinct things even if you were to unseal them. That makes you smarter than most of the village, Dustin said. I genuinely think that they are aware of the truth as well and only perceive him in that manner because they want to cause Kyuubi to suffer when he passes away. But all they do is harm the boy. I wish I could apologize to him, Tenten said. I didn't intend to harm him. After giving it some thought, Dustin said, since you are off from missions today, why don't you go and talk to him? Additionally, Tenten stated, but I don't know where he is. I do, Dustin said with a smile above the Yondaimi's head. Ironically, he has been sitting on his father's head the entire time. Tenten grinned and went in search of Naruto. He had gone out to stop Naruto, but just as he was about to catch him, Naruto created 150 Kage Bunshin, and they all stormed off in different directions. So Yamato was now going around destroying each clone one by one in order to find the real one while telling him to stop. Yamato was not happy at all. A sea of orange exploded out of the city as Sakura was running through the village, and she saw clones of Naruto running everywhere. She stopped running and tried to speak to one of them, and when she saw how upset he was, she tried to find the real one using the only method she knew how to do: search and destroy. After dispelling the genjutsu, Kushina was able to get the clone to spill its guts and discover what was wrong. Kushina had captured one of her son's clones and used a genjutsu to stop him. Kakashi and the third Hokage were in Naruto's apartment when they noticed the clones and remarked, I wonder what Yamato got him doing. After glancing at the third, Kakashi questioned, what do you mean? The third stated, last night, when Naruto was furious with Mizuki for deceiving him and attempting to kill Iruka, he unintentionally used his kyuubi chakra. Right now, Yamato and I are working together to learn how to suppress the kyuubi chakra. Don't be angry about it. He sent a Kage Bunshin to the academy to be with the other students. Someone destroyed it if the clones weren't present, and I'll make sure he shows up for your bell test tomorrow. I'll have Yamato assist him with that after your team has practiced for a while, so he can use it only when he wants to and not accidentally. After all, even if you wanted to, you couldn't let this team down. That seems like a good idea, Kakashi said. The purpose of the sensei seal was to ensure that the boy could use it. He ought to benefit from the assistance of the only person in the village capable of suppressing it. The council's insistence that I work with the Uchiha more than the others and that I can't let them down still bothers me. Will he impart any additional knowledge to him? Maybe chakra control, but nothing to be concerned about, the third person said. Remember that you have two other students, and do your best to humble the Uchiha. Maybe a change of clothes, hopefully, and I will, Kakashi said, nodding. According to the third, I'm sure he will. With a sigh, Sakura made her way to the academy, hoping to find her brother there and receive some answers. Tenten reached the Hokage mountain, where Naruto was sitting, and said, hey, to let Naruto know she was there. Glancing back across the village, Naruto said, hi, to her. Do you mind if I sit next to you? Tenten asked. Go ahead, said Naruto. Anyone who wants it can have it for free. Look, I'm sorry about earlier, Tenten said with a smile as he sat down. I don't hate you because I can tell the difference between an item that is sealed and the item it is sealed into. You wish to discuss it, then. Sighing, Naruto uttered the words, I don't know. Tenten saw him look down and took his hand, saying, calm down, sometimes you need someone to talk to. I swear I won't share anything you say with anybody. All right, but you can't tell anyone about what I tell you. Naruto sighed. I feel like I'm about to blow up, so I need to talk to someone. Tenten squeezed his hand and said, I thought I was an orphan and an only child until last night. I never understood why I was hated then. Last night, I discovered the reason for my hatred. I discovered that I am not as orphaned as I initially believed. I have a twin sister that I have seen for the majority of my life, but I never realized she was my sister. I even thought I had a crush on her, but now I suppose it's just my emotions telling me she was related to me. I also discovered that I have a grandmother who lives somewhere in the world and has a bloodline. Right now, I can't even admit that I have a family until my grandmother returns to the village and performs a blood test to demonstrate that my sister and I are related. Then, in order to comply with some ridiculous law that will allow me to be with my family, I will have to find two women to marry. His right hand was flat on the floor after he released it from Tenten's grasp, and he leaned back onto the ground, saying, it's like someone decided to just kick the shit out of me. Tenten listened, considered what he had said, and her eyes widened briefly as she put everything together. So let me get this straight, she said along with Tsunade-sama of the Sanins. You share a bloodline with the Shodem, Naidame, and Yondaime Hokage of Konoha. You also have a twin sister in addition. Your dad sealed the fox. Damn, that's a lot to process. She ended up resting on his arm as she leaned back to avoid staring down at him and because she was experiencing a headache. Tenten inquired, so what bloodline do you have? I can do something with wood, Naruto said, closing his eyes and letting out a sigh. I'm supposed to learn how to use it today, but I'm not really sure what it does yet. So you have the Shodiame bloodline, Tenten said. That's awesome. How do you know so much about them? Naruto asked, glancing at her. It's actually funny, Tenten said. I have studied Tsunade-sama's family because I aspire to be a well-known female ninja like her. Saying with a sigh, then you probably know more about my family than I do. When Tenten noticed how dejected he appeared, she put her hand on his face, drew him back to face her, and said, you need to brighten up. When you are depressed, you don't look good. You're the first person to tell me I look good ever, Naruto said, grinning and meeting her eyes. Tenten leaned forward gradually while continuing to look into his eyes. Iruka said, it's good to see you finally here, Sakura. As Sakura entered the classroom, sit down. Sakura was about to approach Naruto, who was seated in the back of the class, to ask him what was wrong when he turned to face her and said, hey, Sakura-chan, do all women's lips have a strawberry cream flavor? As everyone turned to stare at him, Sakura remarked, not that I know. Why? All right, thanks, Naruto said, scratching his head. CYA, and rose in a cloud of smoke. After giving Sakura a quick glance, Ino asked, what was that about and how did he disappear like that? Sighing, Sakura uttered the words, I don't know. That class was Kage Bunshin. Iruka sighed. As I mentioned earlier, Naruto, Sakura, and Sasuke make up Team 7 later. I'll tell Naruto. Tenten believed it was because he was overwhelmed by the kiss, but in reality, she was too, and Naruto's eyes were glossed over from taking in all the information from what was left of his clones when he pulled away. Tenten appeared to realize what she had done and hurried to her feet, saying, I'm sorry, as Naruto's eyes returned to normal and he attempted to move his lips to speak. Tenten, for her part, was initially shocked by Naruto's action but felt the emotions from the kiss going through her and was in heaven. She had never experienced anything like this, so she put her arms around him and acted on impulse, sliding her hands up inside his shirt and jacket and feeling his back underneath his clothes. Forget that he had no idea what had happened to him. Ancient instincts took over and he pulled her closer to him. When he slowly withdrew from the kiss, she moaned and slowly opened her eyes to look into Naruto's, blinking before his brain caught up and he jumped backwards and said, I'm sorry, Naruto placed both of his hands on the small of her back and, with his eyes closed, simply enjoyed the moment. Tenten grinned and put a finger to his lips, saying, I understand you have no idea what happened to you. I felt the same way when I kissed you for the first time. I wanted to press my lips to yours. Have you ever? Was that, after all, your first kiss? Yeah, Naruto replied. Tenten grinned and added, me too. Let's introduce ourselves and get to know one another, because I'm not the kind of girl who just goes around kissing a stranger after meeting him. My name is Tenten. Nice to meet you, Naruto said, taking her hand when he saw her extended. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. My last name is Namikaze, but I can't use it yet. Don't worry, I won't tell anyone, Tenten said. Tell me, then you frequently visit this area? Yes, said Naruto. Up here, overlooking the village. I feel at peace. I feel as though I'm living out my dream. Being Hokage is my dream. As he peered over the cliff's edge and at the village, he said, I want to be the greatest Hokage ever and surpass all that came before me. Well, if you think about it, it's almost like you were born to be one, Tenten said with a smile as she glanced at him. Kyuubi was stopped by your father. You'll destroy it. The village was initially established by the first and second Hokages using their bloodlines. The future will always belong to you if you can learn to be better than they were. After glancing at her, Naruto questioned, why? Tenten asked, why what? Because he did not understand. Why did you come up here? Asked Naruto. Why don't you feel afraid of me? Why do you support my dream and are so accepting? My mother died giving birth to me, Tenten sighed. Up until the very end of the last Great War, my dad was a ninja. His ninja career ended when he was hurt and almost lost his leg, but he managed to save it. My dad had a depressive episode and almost committed suicide. He was approached by a man who gave him a fresh dream. Aspire to become the world's greatest blacksmith. My father quickly created new methods for making weapons after learning everything he could about being a blacksmith. I am aware of the significance of a dream to an individual. For me, it's the same being a great ninja and proving that women are just as capable as men is my dream. I believe in your dream because of this. For that reason, I don't despise you. I haven't been harmed by you, and all I see is someone who is held accountable for circumstances that weren't his fault. Regarding why I came up here, I wanted to say I was sorry before my father gave me an explanation. I had only fragments of information and had no idea what it was like for you. Grinning, Naruto said, "Thank you, no problem, but may I ask why you taste like ramen?" Tenten said with a smile. Naruto replied, "Probably the same reason you taste of strawberries and cream." They both chuckled, and then Yamato appeared with a puffing noise, saying, "I found you. Naruto, I've been searching all over for you. I'm shocked that you discovered him so quickly." Tenten, I believe. Yes, Tenten replied. Anyway, Naruto, we still have a lot of work to do today, and we need to get your supplies. Yamato stated. Tenten, would you like me to take you back to your family store as well? No, Tenten said, I have a task to complete first. Following Yamato's nod, Naruto remarked, I hope to see you again, Ten-chan. True, Naru-kun, Tenten said. If you need supplies or have a moment, stop by. After Yamato put his hand on Naruto's shoulder, the two of them departed in a flurry of foliage. After they had left, Tenten turned to face the woods and sighed, saying, It's not nice spying on people. I'm surprised you were able to detect me, a woman said as she emerged from the woods. I believe that I had sufficiently repressed my chakra signature. I have a teammate who is incapable of using chakra, Tenten stated. To avoid his attacks, I've had to develop the ability to detect even the smallest amounts she reaches for a kunai she conceals on her, saying, Now tell me who you are and why are you here? I am merely a worried villager, the woman said with a smile. With that one, I want to make sure you understand what you're getting yourself into. Tenten narrowed her eyes and turned red, but not from embarrassment, but from rage. What is that supposed to mean? She asked. Oh, the woman said, I just meant that you might start getting referred to as a slut and a demon whore, among other nice terms. If you choose to date that boy, I would hate to see the village plague ruin the life of a kind girl like you. Tenten clenched her jaw and uttered, Lady, you have no business worrying about my private life. You or anyone else cannot convince me otherwise if I want to be with him. Well, I just wanted to warn you, the woman said. I mean, not everyone would feel the same way about it as I do. You are undoubtedly aware of his condition and everything, and you probably don't mind that people despise you and your family if they find out. Most establishments won't even sell you food or clothing before you go with him. Make sure he's worth it. As she left, she said, Take care of yourself. After giving the village one final glance and heading off to her family shop, Tenten sneered at the woman as she left, calling her a bitch. Dustin gave them a look and said, Welcome back. As Naruto and Yamato entered the weapon shop, did Tenten manage to locate you? The red-faced Naruto exclaimed, Yeah, she found me. With a questioning glance at the blush, Dustin asked Naruto, do you know where she is at right now? She said she would be here soon. Yamato said she claimed that she needed to take care of something first. Anyway, what can I help you with? Dustin asked, nodding. Yamato inquired, Do you still have those things I left or did you put them back? It's all in here, including the sword, since his father had it made for him, Dustin said, reaching under the counter and removing a scroll. Yamato let out a sigh. You're on your own on the sword, kid. I am just helping you with the chakra control and a few other things. What's the big deal about learning to use a sword? You just swing and cut right, declared Naruto, scratching his head. Dustin blasted Naruto with ki after locking eyes with him, saying, Boy, you say that again, and you and I are going to have a problem. A sword is a manifestation of who you are. Your sword needs to be maintained with the same level of care as you do yourself. Consider it a living thing. It will resemble a baby that no one loves and is unable to walk. If you swing it wildly, it will eventually die, and since the sword is a part of you, you will also eventually die. On the other hand, if you master its use and become a proficient swordsman, you will resemble a hokage, unstoppable. I can assist you if you wish to learn how to wield your sword. Really, said Naruto, you would teach me? Yes, if you have time in your training, Dustin said. Prior to my injury, I was this village's second best swordsman. The first is my best friend. What kind of training schedule do you follow? Yamato stated, if he passes the Kakashi teamwork test after tomorrow, he will probably meet with his team at 8, so I say you will have team practice until 1, between 2 and 5. In addition to teaching him chakra control, the Hokage has asked me to assist him with other things. He has the remainder of the time. Dustin said, What time do you get up, boy? With a nod. Usually around 7. Why? Asked Naruto. If you don't have a mission, I'd like to teach you here at 530 every afternoon. Dustin said, This is my training ground, which is behind the store from 530 until, I believe, you are finished for the day. We will practice. You'll wish you were dead, but you'll be stronger because I won't be easy on you. As Naruto put it, I will do it. After getting 4 more mini weights from the weight area, Dustin returned and said, Take these weights as well. Don't take these off. Please, these weights weigh 25 pounds. That's for your feet and arms, though those are for your entire body. I am aware that you also have some chakra weights. These will strengthen your arms and legs, which will improve your sword skills. Is that all you two require today? How do I get the stuff out of the scroll? Inquired Naruto. This book tells all about sealing and how to unseal also, Dustin said, letting out a sigh and reaching under his counter to retrieve a book. Go through it. As they turned to go, Tenten entered, and Naruto grinned and said, "Hey Ten-chan." Naruto nods, and Yamato hands him the letter the Hokage gave him so Dustin can build the Hokage. Tenten says, "Hey Naruto-kun," grinning as she sees Naruto and recalls how angry she was at the woman for what she said earlier. "Perhaps I had a great conversation with you, and we should get together again soon." "Don't worry, you will get plenty of time talking to my apprentice Tenten," Dustin said with a smile. Tenten glanced at Naruto and her father, then blinked and said, "Apprentice." Naruto looked at Dustin, who nodded in agreement, and said, "Yeah, from 530 every day I am going to be learning how to use my sword correctly starting tomorrow, right?" "Well, that's good," Tenten said. "I suppose I'll see you later," she said, passing him on her way to assist her father in replacing the items that had been sold. As he and Yamato departed, Naruto exclaimed, "CYA Ten-chan. So, I take it you got a new crush, huh?" Dustin asked after they had left. "I'm sick of Neji ignoring you and rejecting you every time." With her back to her father and her blush concealed, Tenten asked, "What do you mean?" "Oh," Dustin said, "I mean, the boy gets as red as you are now, dear, just by saying your name." "Oh, and by the way," he said as he turned and began to head toward the back of the store, "you are old enough to make your own decision, dear, but make sure that you are happy with what you do. You might want to wipe the dirt off your back and take the lipstick off his lips the next time you and he lay on the ground. People might start talking," he says, laughing as he walks away from Tenten, who is blushing so much that Hinata, at her worst, starts to resemble Orochimaru. When Naruto and Yamato reached the Forest of Death, Naruto inquired, "Where are we?" "No one visits this secret training ground," Yamato stated. "I'll be training you in your lineage there. I want you to put on your clothes and weights as soon as possible. Simply open the scroll and direct a small amount of chakra into every sealed object." When Naruto opened the scroll and saw that each item was listed separately, he put on his new clothes and the weights Dustin had just given him, and he also unsealed the weights, which were a black suit that stretched and covered his entire body like body armor. "I thought this suit would be heavy, but it's not," Naruto remarked. "Although a bit heavy, the arm weights are not too bad. What comes next?" "First things first," said Yamato. "Look at the leaf I'm holding. Watch now," he said, as the leaf began to float a few inches above his hand as he used a small chakra. Yamato remarked, "The key to this is to lift the leaf with your chakra," as Naruto gaped. "If it's too much, it will blow away. If it's too little, it won't accomplish anything. I now want you to work on this and make as many Kage Bunshin as you can." Yamato said, "Stop Naruto, you clones are working on chakra control while you are going to work on getting used to the weights." Naruto nods, and a moment later, there are about 200 Kage Bunshin, all of whom begin grabbing leaves from the ground and getting to work. "What do you mean?" asked Naruto, blinking. "I am accustomed to wearing them." With a twinkle in his eye, Yamato replied, "No, you simply haven't set the weights yet. That seal is visible on your left arm." After giving it a quick glance and nodding, Yamato said, "All you need to do is channel chakra into it to activate it. It becomes heavier as you add more chakra to it. Add a tiny bit to it." Naruto nods, but a kitsune in its cage decided to have some fun and sent some of its chakra. Yamato sighed and said, "You have over 1,000 pounds on now, Naruto, 200 on each arm, 200 on each leg, and 200 on the main part of the body since it's a full bodysuit." Suddenly, Naruto was on the floor with a huge crater. "You might as well sit there and suffer for using too much chakra since you won't be able to change the weights for at least an hour. I'll start telling you about plants while you're doing that." Face down on the ground, Naruto could only listen to Yamato's dull speech about roots, trees, and plants. Trying to get up, he put his hands on the ground and tried to get up on his knees. Naruto kept doing this until he was off the ground enough to sit on his arms and legs, but he was perspiring profusely. The clones were getting the hang of the leaf exercise, and when Naruto finally made it onto all four, Yamato saw that Naruto was getting used to it and assumed the fox had something to do with it. Since an hour had already passed, he decided to cancel it for today and walked over and tapped the release seal on the suit. Yamato, who had watched him as he continued to get just a little bit higher each time before falling again, could not believe that he was doing that. Of course, he knew Naruto had a lot of energy and stamina, but he had only intended to have Naruto start with at most 50 each and work up from there. "I'm impressed," Yamato said, shaking his head as Naruto, still pushing, was suddenly blown 20 feet into the air before landing with a thud. I want you to try controlling your chakra once more after dispelling your cage bunshin. But this time, I want you to limit each chakra to 100 as you apply chakra. Keep your eyes on the seal, a number will show up beneath it. You can determine your weights in this way. Following a brief period of rest and self-cleaning, Naruto defeated the clones and experienced a surge of energy from the information. He blinked and declared, I know how to do that leaf exercise now. Good, Yamato said. In any case, that exercise was simple. Do the weights now. When Yamato saw that Naruto had adjusted the weights to 100 pounds, for a total of 500 pounds, he said, Good? Show me the leaf exercise I demonstrated for you now. Yamato nods and says, All right, that's good. Naruto picks up a leaf and makes it float an inch above his hand. And even though he feels a little heavy, he can still move. It appears to be around noon. I'll show you one more thing to work on for the remainder of the day after you meet your sensei, who should be at the academy shortly, he said. This is called tree climbing, as he ascended the tree's side without using his hands, revealing Naruto, who was staring with wide eyes. It's the same thing as the leaf exercise, Yamato said as he took out a scroll, opened a stick of dango, and gave it to Naruto, who began to eat it. You blow off if you have too much, and you fall off if you have too little. In addition to spending the remainder of the day working on it, I want you to visit the library and begin reading any books you can find about flowers and plants. Why do I need chakra control and read books on plants and flowers? Naruto blinked. Okay. Do you understand what your bloodline actually does, Naruto? Yamato asked with a sigh. It was Naruto who said, something about wood. Yeah and no, Yamato said, slapping his head. As you can see, it gives you control over plants. Trees, grass, flowers, seeds, weeds, and even plant roots and leaves. With a lot of practice, a lot more control, and patience, you can make them grow, shrink, or do pretty much anything you want. I can only do half of what you can because I wasn't born with your bloodline, but you need more chakra control to do it. Additionally, chakra control increases your energy and prolongs your life. Do you understand? After blinking, Naruto remarked, so it's not wood. Yes, it is, Yamato stated, because wood is a component of trees. Consider the big picture. We are in this forest, you see. The grass on the ground and the nearby trees could be used to attack your adversaries, among many other things, if you were to fight someone here and use your bloodline. You are therefore in a better position. Consider it like you would a crop. You are the farmer in this scenario. You decide which seeds to plant, where to plant them, how much water to give them, and how to care for them when the time is right. You will have an entire garden full of fruits and vegetables to eat. Do you get it now? I understand, Naruto said, nodding. Therefore, my ancestry will enable me to do more with plants if I read all the books on them and comprehend how they function. That's awesome. Well, since you dispelled all of your clones earlier, it's time to take you back to the academy, Yamato said, nodding. Remind yourself not to remove your weights, and you may want to unseal your sword as well so you can become accustomed to its weight. If your sister tries to open it, people will learn about her, so make sure she doesn't. With a nod, Yamato places his hand on Naruto's shoulder and they depart in a flurry of leaves, only to reappear outside the academy. Yamato immediately departs again, and Naruto enters the building to find his class. Sakura was sitting with Sasuke when he entered, and Naruto said, Hey. Where have you been, Naruto? What was your issue earlier? What's up with the clothes? Sakura asked, turning to face him. Well, I got some new supplies and a few other things with the help of a new friend, Naruto said as he sits down at a desk. He says, it was nice to meet a few new people, even though I know I don't need any special training or anything. Sakura asked, so what did you want to know? If all women taste like strawberry and cream? As she observed him, taking in his new look. Oh, nothing, Naruto said with a smile. Sakura-chan, hello, could you help me find something at the library later if you're not too busy? I should pick up a hobby, according to my new friend, who suggested that I read up on gardening. Given her penchant for reading, Sakura concluded that his new friend must be the one assisting him with his bloodline and remarked, maybe, it will depend on our new sensei. I'm not worried, Naruto said, because from what I've heard, Kakashi sensei won't be that bad. He will test our ability to work as a team tomorrow. With a blink, Sakura asked, are you sure? That's what I was told, Naruto said. Later today, I also had the opportunity to learn how to climb trees. Sasuke inquired, what kind of idiot does not know how to climb trees? I know how to climb trees normally, Naruto remarked. I have to learn how to use my feet alone to climb a tree. It's an exercise for chakra control. Sasuke narrowed his eyes and Sakura was in awe as Naruto took the next step, his chakra fluctuating, and he blew off and onto the floor about 5 feet away. I bet I can do it on the walls to show you, he said, walking over to the wall and attempting to put one foot on before taking the next step and then the third. at which point he was completely off the ground and horizontal. Too much chakra and you blow off, he said with a sigh. You fall off if you don't do enough. That's pretty good, Naruto, Sakura remarked. Does it help you control your chakras and do anything else? Actually yes, said Kakashi, who had quietly opened the door after observing Naruto perform the exercise. Your chakra reserves grow as you practice more. That was quite remarkable. How much time have you spent on the exercise thus far? That was my first time, Naruto remarked. With my Kage Bunshin's assistance, I was able to master the leaf balancing earlier. I'm impressed, said Kakashi, nodding. Yamato is an excellent teacher who can assist you with your particular chakra issue. Your sensei is me. Kakashi. He departed in a cloud of smoke after saying, meet me on the roof. Naruto asked, hey Sasuke, do you like Sakura any? After Sakura helped him up and they followed him up the stairs. I've heard that because you're the last of your clan, you get to marry as many women as you want. Does that help you in any way? Walking more quickly, Sasuke uttered the words, why would I be interested in a weak, pathetic fool like her? Sakura catches Naruto as he approaches to strike him out of rage, whispering, he's not worth it, brother. Now I see that I tried to talk to him the entire time you were away, but he ignored me and treated me like shit. So I don't give a damn about what happens to him. I'm still in shock that I sacrificed my friendship with Ino for him. As they reached the top of the stairs, Naruto sighed and remarked, we got to talk later, it's important. He saw Sasuke pondering and Kakashi reading a book. Now that everyone is here, why don't we introduce ourselves? Kakashi said as they approached. Why don't you go first, Kakashi-sensei? Sakura asked. My name is Hitaki Kakashi, and I like a lot of things and don't like a lot of things. Kakashi stated. I have interests. Alright, you're next, Pinky. My name is Sakura, and I like Naruto, but not in a romantic sense, Sakura said. My goal is to be as strong as the rest of my family, and I don't like some of the villagers, she says with a smile. After Naruto smiles, Kakashi says, okay, Blondie, it's your turn. He questions whether Sakura is aware of Naruto's secret because she enjoys the village but despises some of the villagers. My name is Naruto Uzumaki, Naruto declared. I don't like people who can't tell the difference between a weapon sealed in a scroll and a weapon that tastes like strawberry and cream. I want to outdo all the Hokages and make my family, no matter where they are or who they are, proud of me. Kakashi responded, okay, your turn, duckbutt, as he considers, good analogy for yourself, Naruto, though it is a little too close to comfort if you don't want your teammates to know the truth. My name is Sasuke Uchiha, and I am an avenger, Sasuke declared. I have no time for weak, foolish people. I will kill anyone who stands in my way of killing a specific person. Kakashi sighed and replied, okay, tomorrow at 5 a.m. meet me at the memorial stone and don't eat breakfast or you will throw up. Are we doing a teamwork test? Inquired Naruto. We are doing a survival exercise that is for a team, Kakashi said, blinking, CYA, and departed in a leaf whirl. After Sasuke simply HMPED and left, Sakura turned to face Naruto and said, okay, spill it. With a sigh, Naruto took out the scroll, opened the sword, and declared, I picked up the only damn sword out of the entire village that was made just for us. This sword can only be opened by someone who is related to my father, and I was unaware of this when I opened it, so the man who will teach me how to use it and his daughter are aware that I am his son. Make sure you don't open it or people will know about you, advised the man who is assisting me with my bloodline. I'm not allowed to explain how he can use this bloodline, but the old man told him everything about us and mom. How the hell did you just pick the only sword to reveal all that? Sakura asked, slapping her forehead in shock. I'm not sure, Naruto said. He said, come on, let's go to the library, and Sakura followed suit. Sakura questioned, so who is this girl? The one who tastes like strawberries and cream you mentioned earlier, and is that lipstick on your lips? As they were traveling through the town, Sakura's eyes widened as Naruto wiped his lips quickly, and she exclaimed, so you kissed some girl? When they arrived at the library, Naruto asked, so, how do we find what we're looking for? While ignoring Sakura, I've never been to the library because I'm always stopped before I enter. When Sakura heard that, she clenched her fist in shock. A woman approached, glancing at Sakura and Naruto, and asked, what can I help you with, dear, and who is this? As soon as Sakura realized what her mother was doing, she exclaimed, oh, this is my teammate Naruto. Naruto was wide-eyed. He came to read some plant-related books. He asked me for assistance after someone advised him to take up gardening as a hobby. It's a pleasure to meet you, Naruto, Kushina said. Please call me Kushina and let me know if you need any assistance. Additionally, Naruto realized what was happening when he sensed that people were watching him and said, thank you, Kushina-sama. So you need some books on gardening, huh? Kushina said, scowling at the sama part but ignoring it. Why don't you take him to the 200A 400 book section, Sakura? It's pretty much every gardening book we have. But I have a few more that I think might be helpful, so I'll get them as well as the ones you asked me to get. Why you would want to learn how to play shogi and go is still beyond me. I am aware that they aid in strategy and such, but you have never been fond of them. She turned to go get some books and said, perhaps you should read them too, Naruto. Sakura led Naruto to the library section her mother had told her about and scowled when she noticed a few individuals removing as many books from the shelves as they could. Sakura replied, well, it's not like you could read every book at once, right, Naruto? After saying, Sakura-chan, you're a genius, Naruto blinked and conjured up 100 Kage Bunshin. Each of them then took a book, put it down, and began reading. Sakura blinked and questioned, Naruto, why did you do that? With a smile, Naruto remarked, simple, everything they learn I learn when I dispel them, so I can read all these books in a little while. With wide eyes, Sakura questioned, is it possible for me to learn that jutsu? Naruto's mother approached and said, here you go, dear. Just as she was about to speak, yes, Kage Bunshin is available for use. Junin occasionally visits here and uses them just like you do, but because they consume a lot of chakra, you could die if you were not careful. I don't think you're strong enough for that jutsu, Sakura, so don't learn it. Sakura let out a sigh before smiling as she had a brilliant idea and muttered, how many can you make, Naruto? Just as quietly, Naruto uttered, last night I made around 1,000, why? Unfortunately, Naruto, all those other books are gone. Sakura exclaimed, you could read them with your Kage Bunshin, but it's probably best that you don't because you might die trying to make more. They all sat down and studied their books to see what Naruto would do, but then the people who had taken the books returned and began to put them back, avoiding all the clones and not really looking. Naruto blinked and said, look, I guess I can after all, Sakura-chan. He then created almost 200 Kage Bunshin, scarring the living daylights out of everyone. The Kage Bunshin then took the books his mother brought, along with the remaining gardening books, and gave one to Sakura, who glanced at the title and realized it was Basic Medicine. Sakura glanced at her mother, who gave her a slight nod before turning to return to the counter to check out the books. After failing to witness Naruto's death, a few people stood up and departed. Do you have anything on sealing? Asked Naruto as he approached the counter. My sensei gave me a book on basic sealing, but I'd like to know more. Yes, we do, Kushina said as she glanced at him and noticed another librarian glancing at her. You see that area marked Shinobi only? Look at it. When he saw the books, Naruto decided to make a big trip, so he created another 200 Kage Bunshin and they all picked up random books to start reading. Naruto nodded and looked where she was pointing before moving over there. What are you doing, Kushina? The other librarian whispered as she approached. Look, Kushina said, since we are a public library, we cannot throw him out. He will sicken the Hokage on us. If we do, if he is not careful, he could kill himself with that jutsu. So we might as well assist him in creating even more Kage Bunshin. He won't return if he reads everything in here, so we won't have to deal with him in any case. So let's just give him as much support as we can. Either he will pass away or he will finish reading what he needs and leave. After giving it some thought, the librarian said, I suppose you're right. As she turns and moves toward Naruto, she says, in fact, I got an idea to help him along. As she leaves, Kushina listens by channeling chakra into her ears. Naruto is approached by the librarian, who remarks, you are reading a lot. Why don't you take advantage of the fact that you have never been here before by reading as many books as you can and creating as many Kage Bunshin as you can? In this manner, you can either ensure that you have everything for later or know everything. Thanks, said Naruto. I believe I will, he said, closing his eyes, and then he said, Mass Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Suddenly, the entire library is crowded with Kage Bunshin, who all grab books and begin reading. Some even fall out of the building's doors. The building is 3 stories high, with a hollowed-out center that allows you to see down from the 2nd and 3rd floors to the 1st. When the other librarian returned with a look that left one wondering if she had been fucked silly, Kushina, who had heard what she had said, had to suppress her laughter. When Sakura, who had just finished reading, recalled that her mother had told her that he had more chakra than the entire village, she became aware that she had meant it. Grabbing a clone, she whispered in its ear, was that all yours or was it kyuubi chakra? The replica replied, all mine, but I used nearly all my chakra and I will have one hell of a headache later when I dispel them all. Following some contemplation, Sakura remarked, hey, have each clone dispel itself when it finishes its book so you don't get swamped all at once. They all blinked and exclaimed, cool Sakura-chan, as the clone blinked and rose in smoke at the same time, I will. Sakura blinked, realizing that it was reciprocal and that Naruto was a perfect fit for the Kage Bunshin jutsu. During the next 5 hours, Naruto clones dispelled themselves one by one, and he read the book he was given on basic sealing as he learned more about plants and began to grasp what Yamato was really talking about. He thought, so my bloodline can control the main support of the plant like the trunk of the tree or the vines of the plants. I hate to do this, but the other librarian is waiting to have a BNU kick you out in a few minutes when we are supposed to close, Kushina said to one of her co-workers, who was eyeing the clock and knew what she was thinking. If Naruto was not out of the library in 5 minutes when it was time to close, she would call a BNU. After hearing her mumble it a few times, Kushina decided not to take the chance and moved toward the back section, away from everyone's sight except the clones, having already witnessed what happened with the information going to everyone, so she can't put all your books back and leave the building. After the Naruto clone vanished, everyone sighed and left the building, dispelling as they did so. The building appeared to be on fire or something when Naruto walked out and went up in smoke, giving the impression to those outside that a tragedy of comedies was taking place. The real Naruto arrived outside in a matter of seconds, sat down on the stairs, and passed out as all the information began to flood and the remaining clones all perished in the smoke. When Sakura noticed the Naruto clones departing, she noticed the time and quickly followed, pausing briefly to look at the book she was reading. When the clones all went up at once, Sakura gasped and ran outside, where she saw Naruto unconscious on the ground. His eyes fluttering, she also saw her mother leave, with the other librarian watching with a faint sparkle in her eyes. All three women turned to face Naruto when an ABNU suddenly showed up and said, "Information overload, huh? I will take him to his apartment and make sure he's okay," the ABNU bowed down to say. As the ABNU reached for him, Sakura began to speak, but he interrupted, saying, "Don't worry, little lady, keep in mind that tomorrow is your Kakashi teamwork test CYA," and departed in a whirl of foliage with Naruto. Just as Kushina opened her mouth to speak, the other librarian said, "Good riddance." As she turned to go, she said, "I hope whatever whore had him would just die." Sakura outwitted Kushina, who was about to do something, by saying, "Don't talk about my teammate like that." She turned and hurried away, saying, "You sure are an idiot for someone who works in a library. You need to tell your daughter to stop defending that demon child," the librarian said, glancing at Kushina. As soon as the third person approached and said, "Hello Kushina," she stopped talking. "Naruto was here earlier, I've heard. Did he get all he required?" "I'm not sure, sir," Kushina said. "He read a lot of the books at once, and after experiencing what he called information overload, an ABNU came and brought him to his apartment." "I see," said the third. "I would like to speak with your associate here, so please go see your daughter." Kushina nods and turns to go, but before she does, she sends Chakra into her ears to hear what is being said. "You fired Emily," the third said, glancing at the librarian. With wide eyes, Emily questioned, "What? Why?" "Simple," the third said. "I had 3 different Junins visit me today and tell me about your little scheme to try to force Naruto to commit suicide by overusing the Kage Bunshin jutsu. I would have had you killed for killing a leaf shinobi if it had succeeded. I'm firing you because it didn't work out, but I won't have you arrested for it or the fact that you were breaking the law when I approached a person as biased and ignorant as you has no business working for the village as an employee. I will pay you when you visit the tower tomorrow, but after seeing Ibiki and Anko, I will have you imprisoned for the rest of your life if I learn that you are attempting to cause trouble over this or harm Naruto in retaliation." "That demon should," Emily sneered, but she was abruptly silenced when an ABNU showed up and knocked her unconscious. The third person nodded, and she was led to Ibiki. "The more I see of the people of this village treating Naruto that way, the more I feel sick of them," the third person sighed. 20 minutes or so later, Naruto woke up in his apartment and asked Yamato, "So how do you feel?" as he sat across from him. "All right," Naruto said, closing his eyes. "I was okay when I dispelled them gradually, but when they all began doing so at once, it got too much to bear." "That's because they were all packed with a ton of information," Yamato said, nodding. "They won't harm you if you make the same number of clones and then dispel them during a battle, but if they are used for training, the more information they have, the more dangerous it gets. The Hokage is unable to use them for paperwork because of this. To make sure you take the warning seriously, I let you experience what it was like." "Did you obtain all of the plant-related information from the library?" "Yeah, I also got everything on sealing and a couple strategy books," Naruto replied. "In addition, I read a lot of fiction, Peter Pan, Moby Dick, and the Three Musketeers. They piqued my interest, but I also discovered a wealth of previously unknown historical facts." "That's good," Yamato said with a smile. "Have you gained any knowledge about medicine?" "No, I thought since I had kyuubi I did not need to learn about it," said Naruto, wrinkled his nose. With a sigh, Yamato said, "All right, Send 10 or more clones every day and focus on anatomy, medicine, psychology, and poisons. You can eliminate an adversary more quickly if you learn everything you can about them. While a punch to the throat can kill a man, a punch to the face can slow down an adversary. You can eliminate more people more quickly if you know where to hit. I want you to practice tree climbing when you wake up and meet your test team tomorrow. Continue working on it until Kakashi shows up. Even after you've mastered it, any small amount will be beneficial. I stocked your pantry and refrigerator with groceries so you could eat. You need energy to train, so eat. Even though Kakashi told you not to, we'll begin our training at 2 tomorrow, so eat lunch and I'll see you at the library. Remember to wear your weights at all times. As he raised his arms to show Yamato, Naruto blinked and said, I completely forgot about them. Yamato arched an eyebrow. As Yamato approached and observed that they were exactly where Naruto had placed them, he said, I want you to increase your weights by 10 so that it will be harder to continue when you get the tree climbing down. Continue increasing the weights each time you reach a point in the exercise where you can easily go up and down tomorrow. I would like to try something out. Sure. Do you want me to increase them now? Said Naruto, nodding. Yamato responded, yeah, but only by 10, so you're really gaining 50 pounds. I have to leave after you finished cooking, eating, and getting ready for bed. He left his body weights on, only taking them off to wash them while taking a shower and then putting them back on. CYA, he said, rising in a puff of smoke, and Naruto realized he had used Kage Bunshin. So he went into the kitchen, found more food than he had ever had, grinned, and began preparing a small dinner. Having zeroed it out to wash it, he paused and asked himself, how much did I have on earlier? He shrugged, set it to 200, and discovered that it was a little heavy, but not as bad as it was, so he just got into bed and fell asleep. Fortunately, his bed was already on the floor, or else the extra weight would have broken it. His final thought was about his day and a certain brown-haired girl. When her mother entered the room grinning, Sakura became enraged and Kushina remarked, the third fired that bitch. Sakura had been walking home and was looking for something to vent her rage on. Sakura blinked, demanding to know what. Kushina stated, the third found out about what she tried to do today and fired her for attempted murder on a shinobi as well as breaking his law. Still furious, Sakura remarked, good, she deserves to die for doing that to my brother. Sakura looked at her mother as Kushina said, I'm proud of you, Sakura. Kushina continued, after finding out the truth about your brother, you have already changed for the better in just one day. I'm proud of you for that. Sakura sighed and remarked, I kind of wished Naruto had killed Sasuke for what he said to me today, but I stopped him. I believe it is only right that I return the favor to him. Why would he do that? Kushina asked. What was said by the Uchiha? Sakura remarked, oh, it was just Sasuke and I when the Naruto clone left the school for an unknown reason after inquiring about the woman tasting like strawberry and cream. I made every effort to speak with him. He simply insulted me and called me worthless when he did. When Naruto got there, he attempted to speak with Sasuke on my behalf without realizing that I was angry with him, and he then repeated what he had said to me to Naruto. I would have permitted him to murder Sasuke if it had happened earlier in the day. The strawberry and cream part made Kushina laugh, but she kept it to herself and remarked, well, I'm proud of both of you. Sakura grinned and said, it seems that Naruto picked up the only sword in the entire village that only here I could open because it was made at Dad's request and had a seal on it that only the Yondaimi's blood relatives could open. He claimed that the owner and his daughter were now aware of Dad. Well, that was exciting. I wonder what else your brother did today. Kushina remarked. Acquired a weapon, new clothes, and half of the library. Sakura stated, he learned something called leaf balancing and was starting tree climbing. Kushina nods and says, all right, tomorrow, work on tree climbing with your brother even after you master it. Keep working on it and remember to eat. This village's Junin sensei all administer the same test. The bell test is known as the 2 bells. 3 students test. This test of teamwork makes you want to fight with each other, but you have to put that aside, put the team's needs ahead of your own, and follow their instructions to avoid eating. Who is your sensei? According to Sakura, Kakashi. Avoid wearing anything too revealing, Kushina said with a smile. In addition to being your dad's student, he is the village's second biggest pervert. Inform your sibling that he is a pervert. He will learn a lesson from Naruto. Blinking, Sakura said, what do you mean, Mom? You mean to tell me that you have not seen the jutsu your brother created? Kushina asked, glancing at Sakura. After giving it some thought, Sakura remarked, that sexy no jutsu is the only jutsu I have seen him do aside from Kage Bunshin and Academy Jutsu. Have you seen what happens when he uses it? Inquired Kushina. After giving it some thought, Sakura remarked, there are a few exceptions, but most of the guys fly back with nosebleeds and the girls beat the shit out of him. Why? Stop considering it from a female perspective and consider that jutsu from a ninja perspective, Kushina advised. His jutsu temporarily distracts or incapacitates men. He could work with someone to knock out an enemy during that time, or he could kill them while they're unconscious. He developed a jutsu that works on almost all men, though I must admit it's not the greatest in the world according to what I was told. That's how he was able to trick Mizuki into letting him get the scroll and knock out the Hokage. Sakura blinked and stated, "Let me clarify, because it turns men into perverts. Naruto jutsu is beneficial." "No, everyone is a pervert," Kushina said. "It simply depends on how much of it they are prepared to display." What would you have done if Sasuke had approached you earlier today without a shirt on? After giving it some thought, Sakura blushed and said, "I see Naruto seems to have had a wonderful day today. He mentioned a girl who tasted strawberries and cream while sporting lipstick today." "If the blush is any indication, you still have feelings for him," Kushina said regarding the kiss. "Your brother can tell. Oh well, but since you have a busy day tomorrow, you might want to get some sleep." Sakura gives a nod and makes her way to her room. The following morning, Naruto got up, finished getting ready and eating, and was about to leave when he stopped to check himself and said, "Weird, it feels like I don't have any weights on." After half listening to Yamato's words, he added 50 pounds to the weights because he felt a little heavier than what he already had on, which was 1,100 pounds, 200 pounds for the bodysuit, 25 pounds for the 2 wrist weights each, and 25 pounds for the 2 leg weights before the 250 was added to that. After checking the setting, he decided to go across town to the meeting place. Shaking his head, he continued to the memorial stone despite seeing 2 guys in green spandex running very quickly and shouting about the flames of youth as he was crossing town. Sakura hurriedly got ready for the day after waking up, and her mother was at the table. They said good morning and started eating when Kushina said, "Remember what I told you about those weights, my love? When are you going to show me something else, Mom?" Sakura asked, nodding. Kushina stated, "I want you to practice water walking after you finish tree climbing. The idea is the same as when you climb trees, but you will get wet rather than hit the ground. It will help your reserves rise quickly, much like tree climbing, but don't try it until you can run up and down a tree continuously for 2 hours at a time without getting tired. My main concerns at the moment are your reserves, strength, and endurance. I'll start teaching you other things once they reach roughly Chunin level." Sakura nods, finishes her meal, and immediately heads to her meeting spot with her team. She hears someone swearing as she enters the field, looks to see her brother picking himself out of a crater, raises an eyebrow, but says nothing, and then ignores Sasuke sitting against a stump, brooding, and approaches Naruto, asking, "So how do we do this tree climbing, Aegean?" "All right," Naruto said, "you run toward the tree and attempt to stick. If you have too much chakra, you will blow off like I did, and if you have too little, you will fall off and not stick." Sakura inquired, "Are you going to use your cage bunshin to help you?" "Yeah," Naruto replied, "I was just experimenting on my own before I started with them to see how difficult it was. It's quite challenging, but I'll succeed. Will you give it a try?" "Yes, I am," Sakura replied. "Sasuke, would you like to give it a try as well?" With a sigh, Sasuke replied, "No." With a shrug, Sakura says, "Well, let's get to it." She then begins to run up the tree, reaching the summit before feeling dizzy and falling. When Naruto notices her falling, he makes a pile of 20 cage bunshins for her to land on. When the smoke clears, Naruto rushes to her and asks, "Are you okay?" "Yeah, I reached the top, but my chakra ran out," Sakura said. "I now understand what my mother meant when she said that I had low reserves." "Well, Sakura, take a few minutes to rest," Naruto said with a smile. "You did great." He turned back to face the trees, closed his eyes, and uttered the words, "Mass Shadow Clone Jutsu." Suddenly, almost 1,000 clones materialized. After shouting, "Let's climb these trees," Naruto began to run up the tree but fell off after 10 feet or so. Sakura said, "How are you going to tell if you are getting better or not? After observing his clones doing the same thing and some of them getting better while others were getting worse, you ought to mark the tree in some way, perhaps by making a kunai cut." They all yelled, "Yes," drew out a kunai, and resumed their work after Naruto blinked and said, "You heard her." Sasuke was twitching as he looked at it. After 3 hours and multiple more attempts by Sakura, who made it all the way up and back down before falling off, Kakashi finally shows up. Naruto and his army of clones were still going strong, and Sakura was breathing heavily. Kakashi remarked, "Well, that's something you don't see every day," with one eye noticeably wide. Sakura paused to say, "Hey Naruto, I forgot to tell you yesterday, but Kakashi Sensei's the second biggest pervert in the village." "Really, I know the old man is the biggest," Naruto said, pausing. "I suppose I'll have to teach him to behave differently." "Well, we have a test to do right now," So maybe later, Kakashi said, so that we can conduct the test. Why don't you get rid of your cage bunshin? No, I'll let them continue. Naruto said, I am able to do both simultaneously. In addition, I don't feel like fainting again. Okay. The deal for this test is to get a bell from me, Kakashi said, letting out a sigh and removing 2 bells. With a moan, Sakura uttered, she was right. What was that, Sakura? Kakashi inquired. Sakura remarked, I heard that everyone takes the bell test got 3 teammates and 2 bells. You try to force us to prioritize our needs over the missions. It's collaboration we pass, since I am aware of this and I'm confident Naruto was too after attempting to fight you and demonstrating his skill. Sasuke would declare that he would not assist us and yada yada yada. Do you mind if we resume our training? Naruto remarked, ready to work of tree climbing some more Sakuraken, as Kakashi began to perspire. Sure. Sasuke, are you prepared to try it with us? Sakura asked. No, I am here to take this test, Sasuke said, glancing at Kakashi. We already passed the test. Sakura sighed. Quit acting like I'm superior to you because I'm a Uchiha and I train. She begins to run up a tree and back down about halfway before her chakra runs out, saying, if you have time to brood, you have time to train. You pass, said Kakashi. Sasuke turns and departs as well, but not before giving Sakura and Naruto a death stare. Meet here tomorrow at 8 and we will start missions. Naruto let out a sigh and replied, okay. I want all cage bunshins to line up in rows of 10 and then dispel 1 row at a time until you are all done. Sakura watched as they all followed instructions, saw Naruto's eyes lighten, and then, around halfway through, she commanded them to stop. She continued, wait about 10 minutes and continue. Naruto looked like he was about to pass out. Aegean. Grinning, Naruto said, thanks, Sakura. So have you had any luck on your bloodline yet? Inquired Sakura. I haven't tried yet, Naruto said. Yamato advised me to improve my control before attempting to use it. He wanted me to study plants as well. After giving it some thought, Sakura remarked, you ought to send a cage bunshin to the Yamanka flower shop if you have any questions concerning your plants. They might be able to assist you. Maybe later, after I learn a little more about my bloodline, Naruto remarked after giving it some thought. Sakura glanced at Naruto and inquired, how much info did you get from all those books yesterday? As he sighed as his clones continued to scatter. A lot, said Naruto. So are you going to tell me who this woman is that tastes like strawberries and cream? Sakura asked with a smile. Sakura followed Naruto as he got up and began running toward the village, grinning and saying, nope. When they finally arrived at the ramen stand, the elderly man asked, so Naruto, who is this? You were the one who told Mom about Naruto, weren't you? Sakura asked, glancing at him. I see your sister got the brains while you got the brawn, huh Naruto, the elderly man said with a smile. Yeah, but we're trying to share some of our strengths with each other, Naruto said. Why didn't you tell me about my family, then? Ayame replied, it was my idea Naruto. I did not want to see you get hurt Aegean if your mom and sister did not accept you, so I made dad promise not to tell you after he was sure who you were. Grinning, Naruto said, thanks, Ayame. Sakura said, what kind of ramen should I get? With a smile on her face at the way Naruto and the owner and his daughter interacted. I had never consumed it before. The 3 of them glanced at her, then at one another, and finally back at her, before Naruto stumbled, you never ate ramen. In a matter of seconds, a bowl of ramen was placed in front of Sakura, who blinked and inquired, how did you make that so fast? Ayame glanced at her father, who was already slinging food in the kitchen like there was no tomorrow. You have to be if you want to keep up with Naruto, Ayame said, pointing to Naruto. Go ahead and give it a try. Ayame and their father were both gaping as Sakura nodded, broke apart some chopsticks, took one helping, put it slowly in her mouth, and began to chew. Naruto, who had already begun eating, continued to eat, allowing her privacy, until her bowl slammed on the counter, causing him to look at it and realize it was empty. He blinked. Can I have another? That was pretty good? Sakura inquired. A very pleased ramen stand owner was left behind by Naruto and Sakura after 25 minutes and 27 bowls of ramen. Naruto asked Sakura, how the hell did you eat 13 bowls of ramen? To be honest, I'm not sure, Sakura said as they went on. Sakura blinked when Naruto approached the library and inquired, why are we here, Naruto? Something inside of me snapped as soon as I tasted it, and I could not get enough. Naruto stated, I was told to read medical books as well as physiology and anatomy and poisons, so that's why I am here. Sakura nods and follows him inside, where they see their mother. Naruto asks, what happened to the other woman? As he looks around. She was fired for doing a bad job, Sakura said. Don't stress over it. It's good to see you both again so soon, Kushina said as he approached. How may I assist you? What have you been feeding Sakura? She nearly outdates me when it comes to eating ramen, Naruto inquired. She had 13 bowls, while one had 14. I'm surprised. Sakura, you should know better than to eat like that, Kushina muttered, shaking her head and sighing like a ramen-loving idiot. In any case, how may I assist you? Anatomy, physiology, poison, and medical, Sakura stated. Okay. It's in the section with the blue shelves to your right, Kushina said, blinking as she saw Naruto nod. We only have that civilian stuff. Additionally, the shinobi-only section has a blue shelf. Sakura remained in the regular section studying, but Naruto grinned and followed her to the civilian section. After making 60 shadow clones, he went to the shinobi-only section and made another 20. About 20 minutes into Naruto's reading session, Yamato appeared next to him and inquired, "Are you ready?" With a blink, Naruto questioned, "How did you know which was the real me?" Yamato remarked, "Your clones lack the fox's chakra, but I sense it in you. Let's go." Yamato placed his hand on Naruto, and the two of them departed in a flurry of leaves. Sakura asked, glancing at the clone next to her, "So where is Naruto at?" According to the clone, he left with Sensei a moment ago. Sakura let out a sigh and resumed her reading as she approached and sat down next to her daughter. Kushina inquired, "So how are you today, dear?" Sakura responded, "All right. When I explained the purpose of the test to Kakashi, he passed us without even testing us. Tomorrow, we begin our missions. Both Naruto and I practiced climbing trees. He used his cage buncheons and reached about halfway up the tree, so he's likely much better now. I can ascend all the way and descend about halfway before my chakra runs out." After giving it some thought, Kushina asked, "Are you still using what I gave you?" As Sakura put it, "Yeah, why? You'll find out later," Kushina said with a smile. "I want you to keep in mind what I told you this morning, but know that you are doing better. Anyway, I have to return to work and try not to do the same thing your father did with the ramen," she said as she stood up and resumed her job. Sakura returned to her reading with a small smile. When Naruto and Yamato reached the Forest of Death once more, Yamato questioned, "So what are your weights on now, Naruto?" After examining it, Naruto remarked, 400 plus the arm and leg weights. Why?" With wide eyes, Yamato remarked, "You currently weigh 2,000 pounds, not including the weights on your arms and legs. How come you're still moving?" According to Naruto, "I don't know. Anyway, I think you should be able to understand what I am saying because I know you read a lot yesterday," Yamato sighed. "You are aware that your ancestry includes the capacity to manipulate plants. These trees are all around us. Take note of the fact that they are stronger, thicker, and taller than any other tree on the planet. The reason is that your ancestor used his bloodline to make these trees himself. He changed them to become what you see today. These trees are nearly impossible to destroy. That's the main secret of this lineage. You can change plants to the point where they resemble soldiers and weapons more than they do plants. I want you to close your eyes and sit down now," Yamato said. "Now I want you to stretch out with your senses, but don't open your eyes." After Naruto followed instructions, "You don't need them, so forget about them. Feel every plant on the ground and the trees themselves as you slowly release your chakra. Put your chakra over them and look for the plants' minds." With his eyes widening, Naruto questioned, "What?" "Remember what you read yesterday," said Yamato, who was seated exactly like Naruto. "Living organisms are plants. They have a mind, just like any other living thing, and have chakra. It differs from ours in that it merely instructs the plant to extract water from the soil if it is thirsty and food if it is hungry, after which it is instructed on where to go and how to get to its growing location. I would like you to close your eyes and try to feel the chakra in each plant before you feel for the mind that is directing it." With his eyes closed, Naruto released his chakra gradually, sending it through his body and into the earth. As Yamato watched, he noticed that Naruto's blue chakra abruptly changed to various shades of green when it came into contact with the plants. The grasses were only a light green, the trees were dark green, and other plants were emitting any shade of green in the center. Yamato realized that the color indicated the amount of chakra the plant possessed. Yamato replied, "Okay, now that your chakra is flowing into the ground, I want you to try and pull it back toward you and see if you can feel the plants." Yamato raised an eyebrow as he watched the green chakra that had been on the ground slowly move across the ground and into Naruto, who appeared to be experiencing a problem as the green energy returned to him, and he asked, "I think I can feel the plants, but I'm not sure. Behind me, I sense a tree that seems to be in pain, but I can't sense their thoughts." Yamato asked, "Try and focus on the tree that is in pain, Naruto, and tell me what you experience." After noticing that the tree Naruto was staring at had been struck by lightning. As he saw Naruto emit green chakra and move it in the direction of the tree, he scrunched his nose and uttered the words, "It in pain. It's missing something, but I'm not sure what. It was worn out." Yamato smiles and says, "Why don't you try and make it feel better, Naruto? See if you can make it feel better, Naruto. When he sent more energy toward the tree, nothing happened at first, so he became frustrated and sent even more energy. The tree's bark began to regrow over the lightning-burned area, and Naruto became irate because he was unable to see anything, so he sent more chakra at it. Suddenly, the tree began to shake, and Yamato yelled, "Stop, Naruto!" Naruto halted, turned to face Yamato, who was staring at the tree, and questioned, "What? You need to calm down and not get frustrated, Naruto." Yamato sighed for a few minutes. "You were doing fantastically there, even beginning to heal the tree. But then you became irritated and turned to face the tree." When Naruto turned to face the tree he felt was there, he noticed that it was beginning to lose all of its leaves and appeared to be dying. "What happened?" he asked. Yamato remarked, "You lost focus on the tree's emotions when you became irritated. As a result, you ended up harming the tree because you were unaware that you were helping. Consider it to be your body. Your feet, or roots, are what carry you to your food and water. Your arms are the limbs, and your fingers are the leaves, similar to how you grab your chopsticks to eat ramen. The leaves absorb energy from the sun. The veins now carry your blood throughout your body. Although the systems of the plants are similar, your heart pumps blood and maintains equilibrium to keep everything in balance. When you became angry, you upset the equilibrium to the point where the tree's heart stopped, causing it to perish. The plants will respect you if you respect them." With a nod, Naruto asks, "Is there anything you can do for that tree?" while looking down. With a sigh, Yamato replied, "No, I apologize." With a nod, Naruto asks, "What now?" Yamato replied, "I want to see something. Put your hands in a ram seal and flare your kurka so I can see it." Yamato looked at Naruto as he flared his chakra and said, "Okay, tell me what you feel without stopping." Naruto inquired, "What do you mean?" With a sigh, Yamato remarked, "I am currently seeing 3 distinct chakra colors. Your typical chakra is blue-green, is what you exchanged with the plants, and red is the kyuubi that is entering your system." "What do you mean I traded with the plants?" Naruto paused. Yamato replied, "When you first sent your chakra out, did you feel anything from the plants?" After giving it some thought, Naruto replied, "No, I did after you told me to pull it back in though." "That's what I was thinking," Yamato said, nodding. "As you can see, the plants took your chakra when you sent it out, and when you called it back, they gave it back to you. You could feel them. Because of this I am not the same as you. Although I can smell plants, I am unable to experience their effects. I think that's why you could tell someone was hurt even if you couldn't see it." "So what does this green chakra do?" inquired Naruto. After giving it some thought, Yamato remarked, "Well, I believe that's essentially how you'll learn to control plants with your eyes closed. I want you to flare your chakra once more and feel for the 3 distinct chakras. Tell me where it is on your body when you believe you can tell which is which." "I can't tell them apart," Naruto said, closing his eyes and releasing his chakra once more. "Everything feels the same." With a sigh, Yamato inquired, "How does it feel?" After giving it some thought, Naruto closed his eyes and uttered, "It feels in some spots like it's burning, and other places it feels cool like water, and then there are other places that don't feel anything." "All right," Yamato said, "you mentioned that some of it feels like it's burning. Where is that at the moment?" "I feel it burning around my left hip," Naruto remarked. After giving it some thought, "It has now spread to my right arm." "That's the kyuubi chakra," Yamato said. "How about the one that has a watery feel to it?" With his eyes still closed, Naruto uttered, "It's around my feet." "Naruto, you just identified the kyuubi chakra and the plant's chakra, even though you don't have many plant chakras," Yamato said with a smile. "Your typical chakra is the other one, Naruto. I want you to try to transfer the plant's chakra to your hands." Yamato inquired, "How did you make it move earlier when you were working on that tree?" After Naruto attempted, but it was unsuccessful. After reflecting, Naruto uttered, "I was focusing on the tree. Why?" After giving it some thought, Yamato went to Naruto, picked up an acorn, and said, "Try and flare your chakra Aegean, but send it to the acorn." When Naruto did, Yamato noticed that his green chakra had moved to the acorn that had opened up and was beginning to grow. However, he also noticed that Naruto's green chakra had decreased. However, as soon as it struck some kyuubi red chakra, they neutralized one another, turning it blue like his normal chakra as the red and green vanished. When Yamato realized what had happened, he could have slapped himself and said, "I get it." Naruto inquired, "Get what?" According to Yamato, you have a kyuubi chakra that would essentially harm your body, but because of your bloodline, you are able to stop the demon chakra. What happens is that you absorb the energy that the plants gave you, and when it strikes your kyuubi chakra, it neutralizes it and turns it into your chakra. In essence, it further filters the kyuubi chakra. I'm not positive, but I believe you could neutralize more kyuubi chakra more quickly if you followed your previous method of sending chakra out into plants and then pulling it into your body. Additionally, It will support you when you become angry or upset. Blinking, Naruto questioned, what do you mean by when I get mad or upset? When you get emotional, you start drawing on the kyuubi chakra, which causes your whiskers to grow larger, your eyes to turn red, and your nails to grow. Yamato sighed. If I am correct about what is happening with the plant's chakra, then the more of it you had in you, the more of the kyuubi chakra you could access before you were affected by it. I think that if you were able to get angry enough, kyuubi could take over you for a short time. After giving it some thought, Naruto said, I understand. It reminds me of the book I read about bases and acids at the library. The plant's chakra is a base, and kyuubi's is an acid. Together, the two create a neutral object, which in this instance would be my chakra. Shocked, Yamato uttered, exactly when the acid strikes, you can use up all of your base before the acid becomes a concern, provided you have enough of it. That's easy, so what's next? Naruto grinned. Yamato said, well, that's all for today, but we will continue tomorrow. As he glanced at his watch, continue practicing tree climbing, but don't work on your bloodline until I'm present at 2, I'll see you at the library. After giving a nod, Yamato returns him to the library, where he discovers that all of his clones have vanished and that the building is closing, but they haven't been dispelled. Naruto enters and asks Kushina, where are all my clones? Sakura took them to your team's training ground a while back. Kushina stated she took the clones for company and training because she wanted to continue honing her tree climbing skills. All right, I was wondering, Naruto said, nodding. I had to leave because I had sword practice. So who is this girl I heard Sakura talk about? Kushina asked, nodding and glancing around. Naruto pauses, flushes, and says, no one. Unfortunately, Kushina said. I figured you might invite her to the Hokage's house one day if she were your girlfriend. Sakura talks too much, Naruto remarked. She friend and walked away. With a sigh, Kushina completed shutting up. When Naruto finally arrived at the store selling wolf claw weapons, he saw the 2 green spandex wearing individuals from before leaving. After giving them a final glance, Naruto entered and saw Tenten behind the counter. She grinned and said, so how was your test today, Naruto? Easy, I suppose, Naruto remarked. As soon as Kakashi pulled out the bells, Sakura informed him of the test, and he passed us. How did your day go? Tenten said, well, I suppose we have an hour left before we close, so feel free to return and good luck. Dad's in the back. Thanks, was said by Naruto as he entered the rear. Tenten couldn't help but blush at his appearance as he went. Dustin was seated next to some kind of metal table when Naruto entered the training area. Naruto, it's good to see you, Dustin said with a smile. Take a moment to bring your sword here. When Dustin received it from Naruto, he said, open it. I'm making a practice sword and sheath that way exactly as yours does, Dustin said as Naruto opened it and watched him place the sword and sheath in 2 different grooves. However, he also noticed seals on the table and on the opposite side, where a wooden sword and sheath were located. It will only require a brief moment. After a short while, Dustin reassembled Naruto's sword and gave it to him. He then took the wooden ones and gave them to Naruto, who saw that they weighed the same. After receiving a nod, Dustin said, I hear you know Kage Bunshin, correct? He went on, I want you to make one, give it your sword, and have it examine it and learn every detail about it. It has 4 seals on it. One that only you can open is one you already know. I want you to locate all 4, but I also want you to find the other 3 and see if you can identify what 2 of those 3 do. Following instructions, Naruto had 2 Kage Bunshin begin working on that. All right, Dustin said, I want you to take your wooden sword and practice drawing it out without any problems by placing it where you feel most comfortable using it. We'll move forward once you've completed it 500 times without making a mistake, and left Naruto to go to work inside the store. Tenten asked, so how's it going? After observing Naruto and his 2 Kage Bunshins for an hour. Naruto paused and uttered the words, okay. Dustin inquired, have you gotten it down yet, Naruto, where you can remove your sword 500 times without trouble? According to Naruto, no, not yet. Well, quit wasting my time and do it already, Dustin said as he returned to the store. You'll get used to him, Tenten said. Tell me what you've learned so far, and I'll see if I can be of any assistance. Tenten remarked, stop, that's where your problems start. Naruto had his practice sword on his left shoulder and reached up with his left hand to draw it out. Naruto inquired, what do you mean? Tenten asked, are you left-handed or right-handed? Says Naruto. Right, why, all right, Tenten said, you are pulling your sword with your left hand even though it is on the right side. Kenjutsu should flow freely like water rather than being jumbled like a heap of rubbish. Alright, make a slashing motion with your right hand to draw your sword out rather than using your left. Give it a try and let me know how it feels. With a nod, Naruto reaches for his sword with his right hand across his chest, grabbing the handle before saying, stop. the left or right side of your blade is sharp, so you can't see it. Right, said Naruto. Tenten responded, no, you would end up striking with the blunt side of your sword when you pulled it out because you currently have it on your left. Make sure you understand by quickly turning your sword sheath around and then showing me your drawing. Tenten remarked, that was good, but it was too slow. After Naruto turned it and quickly drew, try again, but more quickly. After sheathing it, Naruto made another attempt, this time more quickly. An hour or so later, Dustin went outside to see Naruto quickly draw his sword and see Tenten telling him to do it again. He checked the important things and saw that, although his form was awful, he could still swing the sword. Stop, he said. Naruto, put your sword away. Dustin said, all right, I'd like to see something. After Naruto sheathed it, Tenten, quickly grab your practice sword. Dustin said, all right, here's a challenge. Tenten nodded, went out, and came back a moment later, but her sword was on her left hip. I want Naruto to try to hit Tenten because I know how skilled she is with a sword. You're supposed to block him. Tenten, you can get the weapon you've been requesting. I give you if you can block him for an hour. You will have to spend the entire Sunday working in the forge. If Naruto hits you, I'll teach you a jutsu if you can hit her, Naruto, but if not, you'll have to work in the forge on Sunday. Can it be any day but Sunday? Inquired Naruto. Dustin turned to face Naruto and remarked, you are beginning to annoy me. Boy, you have already lost. If you don't think you'll win now, get started. An hour later, Dustin declared, okay, Naruto, you lose. Tenten is the winner. Tenten waited while Naruto drew his sword and began to attack blindly. But Tenten blocked every swipe. Tell me now why you are unable to work on Sunday. I only get to spend 2 days a week with my mom and sister without having to pretend that we don't know each other. Naruto sighed. Those days are Sunday and Wednesday. You have a sister and your mother is alive, Dustin said, glancing at him. Yes, Naruto replied, but I only learned about it 2 days ago. My mother didn't even know I had a brother until I was 7 years old, and according to the Hokage, it was already too late for me to be with her at that point. Don't tell anyone, please. How is your sister related to you? Inquired Dustin. Are your parents the same, or is she merely your half-sister? After giving him a quick glance, Naruto said, twin. Dustin replied, very well, you will still have to work in the forge, but I will only make it a half a day if that's okay with you. No sir, I lost, and I don't go back on a deal, Naruto said. I'll work a full day since you stated it would be a full day. All right, Dustin said with a smile. I'll have you work in the forge for an hour each day when you get there tomorrow. This one ends after 24 hours of work, but you will need to put in more if you lose again. Now explain your slowness to me. What are you doing with your weights? I keep forgetting these things. Naruto blinked. I also have the arm and leg weights you gave me, but they are set at 400. While blinking, Dustin said, Tenten, check the weight seal. He's got it on 400, so he has 2,000 pounds on plus the arm and leg weights, Tenten said. Nodding and approaching it with wide eyes. Lee only has 6,000 on and has worked for more than a year, while Guy Sensei only has 10,000. How can he be up to that much already? It must have something to do with the fox. Dustin thought. Zero your weights out and battle Tenten once more, Naruto. Tenten had her sword out within 5 minutes after Naruto nodded and hit the release, and Dustin remarked, good. That indicates that he was truly capable of reaching that level, and the suits did not defect, though that does present another issue. Tell me, Naruto, if your clones have discovered all 4 seals and are aware of what 3 of them are. They only found 3 seals, Naruto said, dispelling his clones. The first is a blood seal that only I can open, followed by an elemental seal that lets me charge elemental chakra into it, and, finally, a seal that prevents it from breaking while I'm sending chakra through it. Dustin replied, good, but I have to ask, how you knew what the last seal was? Naruto stated, I had my Kagebunchen read up on a lot of things while I was at the library. One of them was sealing, and I finished the whole section on the subject. Dustin nods and says, all right, I want you to increase the weights once your body adjusts to a certain setting to help you get faster. I'll also give you some extra arm and leg weights. The lesson for today is over. Tomorrow, I'll see you. As Tenten asks, so, your sister is your twin? And Dustin departs. Naruto nods. It's funny, the Yamanko girl is the only other blonde girl your age that I am aware of, but I am aware that she is not your sister. Nope, she's not a blonde, and neither is my mom, Naruto said with a smile. Sighing, Tenten remarked, so, you think I might get to meet them sometime? That's funny, Naruto said, scrunching his nose. Even though she believes you are my girlfriend, my mother stated she wanted to meet you. Red-faced, Tenten questioned, oh, how does she know about me? Naruto explained, one of my Kagebunchen accidentally asked my sister if all girls taste like strawberries and cream, and she figured that whoever I tasted must be my girlfriend and told my mom. Tenten, flushed, glanced at him out of the corner of her eye and asked, "And am I your girlfriend?" "I didn't know if you wanted to be my girlfriend or not, so I told her you were a friend," Naruto said. "I mean, we shared a kiss, and I liked it, but since I'm not very experienced at this, I didn't want to say yes or no without first asking you." Tenten, who was initially a little agitated but became calmer after he clarified, asked in a neutral tone without betraying herself, "And do you want me to be your girlfriend?" Naruto replied, I would like you to be, I mean if that's what you want." "I'd like that," Tenten said, kissing him. "Do you want to join us for dinner?" When Naruto followed her inside the house and discovered that the table was ready for him to join, he said, "Short tension." Both of the children blushed even more when Dustin asked, "So when's the wedding?" It had been a few days since then, and since it was Sunday, the Namikaze family could spend time together today. Sakura asked her mother, "Where is Naruto? He ought to have arrived by now." "I'm sure he will be here soon." The third person seated across from them said, "You will all be able to be together as a family for the first time today without having to tell lies, Sakura. Just have patience." "I apologize, but even though we are on the same team, we don't get to talk much." Sakura sighed. "Kakashi has been working on his bloodline and doing research at the library, and we are constantly practicing tree climbing to get stronger." Asuma was seated in a chair when the doorbell rang. She said, "I will get it," and proceeded to open the door. After returning a short while later with Tenten and Naruto, he remarked, "Looks like we got guests." "Ah, Naruto, Tenten," the third person said, "It's very kind of you to visit me today. What can I do to assist you?" Kushina and Sakura both turned to face Tenten as Naruto put his arm around his shoulder and remarked, "I just thought I would bring my girlfriend with me to meet my family." Tenten turned to face Kushina and said, "You?" To which Naruto replied, "Do you know my mom?" "We met," Kushina said. "I may have been a bit too strict with her, but I made sure she understood what she was getting into." Tenten inquired, "I guess we weren't able to properly introduce ourselves the other day." "In Tenten," she said, squinting at Kushina. Sakura grinned and introduced herself as Naruto's sister. "I'm glad to have met you despite my suspicions. My brother has not mentioned having a girlfriend." Kushina said, "It's nice to meet you, Tenten, and I want to say I'm sorry for the other day, but I did not want to see my son get hurt again, so that's why I said what I said." As Naruto rubbed the back of his head, "As you are already aware, I am Kushina Haruna Uzumaki Namikaze, the widow of Yondaime Hokage Minoda Namikaze, a former whirlpool ninja." "You were married to the Yondaime," Konohamaru said, his eyes wide. "That implies that the boss is a Yondaime son, correct?" The answer was, "Yeah, Konohamaru." She asked, "Naruto, how do you know Konohamaru and why does he call you boss?" Konohamaru grinned as he remarked, "Naruto taught me his Kage killer." Blinking, Sakura turned to face Naruto and uttered, "You didn't teach him that, did you?" Tenten questioned, "Kage killer, what is that?" The third stated, "Naruto here created an A-rank forbidden jutsu along with the S-rank version of it. Unfortunately, before I could stop him, he taught it to my grandson here. Boss taught me one version of it and then knocked out my sensei with the other," Konohamaru said. "Would you like to see it? It's cool." Naruto replied, "No, I mean I don't think Tenten would like to see it." Kushina responded, "Okay, I know what the A-rank version of it is, but what's the S-rank version?" Tenten pouted and said, "I want to see it." "All right," Naruto sighed, "but you requested it." Naruto had stopped the jutsu and had a very cool trick set up for just such an occasion. "Harem jutsu," he said as he put his hands together, and then the room was filled with nude blonde females, and the third and his son Asuma were both blown back into the walls with massive nosebleeds. As the smoke cleared, Naruto was kneeling in front of his mother when he saw a dozen roses in his hands. Pink roses in front of her, yellow roses in front of Sakura, and red roses in front of Tenten. "Hey boss, how did you get roses here so fast and why are you on your knees?" Konohamaru asked after the three women continued to blink. "I had them sealed in a scroll," Naruto remarked, "in order to get some seeds to work on at home. I went to the Yamanko flower shop and got them. I'm on my knees for what reason? Tenten has many sharp weapons, Sakura's punches are painful, and my mother is frightening because the elderly man was afraid of her." Red-faced, Tenten asked, "So that's your Kage killer?" After taking the roses. "Any man over the age of puberty unless he is gay is instantly knocked out from it," Naruto said, pointing to the third and Asuma, who were both unconscious with the exception of the side effect. "It wouldn't be harmful." As all of the women gazed at him, Konohamaru questioned, "What side effect, boss?" "Remember how I instructed you to make that one small change in the henge sequence?" Naruto asked. "It transforms you into the person you are hanging into rather than a henge." "Wait, you mean to tell me that jutsu turns you into a girl?" Sakura asked, blinking. "Yes," Naruto replied. "Go back a minute, Konohamaru. After the smoke cleared, Naruto and Konohamaru performed the sexy no jutsu, and he said, touch and see for yourself. He dropped the jutsu and said, okay Konohamaru, it's safe to look, it may sound odd, but when they all examined him, they discovered that he was a woman and that his boobs functioned flawlessly. Tenten was the one who verified this. Why did you make me turn around, boss? Konohamaru asked just a moment ago, I saw it before. According to Naruto, you don't know what the female body looks like, so you don't know what parts are different. Tenten narrowed her eyes and said in a gentle tone, and how do you know that Naruto can? I accidentally turned on the old man's crystal ball one day and it was set for the hot springs, Naruto said, pointing to the third. Infuriated, the third woman, who had just woken up enough to hear it, yelled, Jiraiya messed with it. For now, relax, Kushina said. The king of all perverts is Jiraiya. Sakura inquired, how do you know that, mom? Kushina added, if you ever read Icha Icha Paradise Volume 2 you will find mine and your father's honeymoon in there. She said, what, my father could not handle giving me the talk so he gave me the book instead. Tenten brightened up and said, your Gina and the Yondaime is Travis. This caused everyone to stare at her. Sakura inquired, so what do you see in him and what do you see in her? Naruto replied, well, Tenten smart, pretty, strong, believes in me, does not judge me, a pretty good kisser and... Sakura inquired, so it was your lipstick on his lips the other day? I don't believe it, Tenten sighed. I kissed a guy the day I decided to wear makeup, and everyone in the village knew it was me right away. So when's the wedding? Inquired Kushina. Do you think she and your dad are related? Inquired Naruto. They both posed the same query, after all. Sakura patted her stomach and inquired, Naruto, does she know about that? Naruto looked up and replied, yes, I know about Kyuubi, the Yondaime, as well as the fact Naruto has a bloodline and is related to Tsunade-sama, as well as the fact he is going to have to marry two women. Hey, old man, Naruto said. I've been curious. Sakura and I both have affinities for water, so we could learn Suiden jutsu in any way. The third replied, not unless Kakashi teaches you, though I can help you a little with your other elements. Asuma wanted to know, how many elements do they have, dad, and what are they? The third individual stated, Sakura has water and Naruto has earth, water, wood, and wind. Really, wind, Asuma said. That implies that you and I share the same element. When you're ready, I can assist you with it if you'd like. Grinning, Naruto said, thanks, Asuma-sensei. I can't help you with water, but I know someone who can, though she is a little sadistic, Asuma said, glancing at Sakura. It can't be worse than Guy-sensei, Tenten remarked. What element are you? Asuma asked, glancing at Tenten. Tenten added, water also. Why? Kushina said, Hokage-sama, after glancing at them. I am aware of Asuma's target and that she is good, but I have another suggestion that could benefit Sakura, Tenten. What is it, Kushina? Asked the third. Despite having kept my abilities a secret for all these years, Kushina sighed and remarked, you know what my true skill level is since Whirlpool no longer exists. Nothing I teach Sakura and Tenten would be regarded as a village secret. Asuma can work with Naruto on the days we are here, and I could work with both of them and impart my knowledge to them. The sooner they all gain strength, the sooner we can leave the area. Tenten questioned, why me? Kushina stated, you may not realize it, but the moment you started dating my son you became a target for all his father's enemies as well as anyone who wants to hurt him, or so that means you are like a daughter to me. No, in their eyes. After giving it some thought, the third person asked, how much are you willing to teach them? According to Kushina, everything. After a brief period of silence, Tenten inquired, how are you doing? I am aware that you can effectively suppress your chakra, but what are your skills? Kushina was an S-rank nin in the bingo book when she got married. The third sighed. She is nearly as feared as the Yondaime's Hiraishin because of her 3 jutsu. She is good. What are those 3 jutsu, moms? Sakura inquired. Kushina let out a sigh and stated, one was the virgin summonings, one was the Suiden Uzumaki Undertow, and the last was the forbidden just you Death Star. What do they do? I asked Tenten. Well, the Suiden Uzumaki Undertow does exactly as it sounds, Kushina stated. Like most Suiden jutsu, you must be close to water. Even if you know how to avoid water walking, this just you can still cause a tidal wave that covers the area. After spiraling, the water spins and drags you under until you drown or the person who threw it lets go. Death Star is a genjutsu, which is prohibited. It gives you the impression that you've passed away and that the Shinigami is pursuing you after that. It forces you to reflect on your life, but it also forces you to endure your own hell. It typically lasts only a few seconds and nearly always results in death. The Sharingan can't stop it, which is the best part. Sakura inquired, what about the other one, mom? Kushina replied, Before I explain that one, do all you men mind leaving for a few minutes? Come on, Konohamaru, Naruto, come with me. Assume aside, I'll demonstrate how wind chakra functions. Dad, you want to come? Unfortunately, I must be going back to the office, the third said. Kushina, stay as long as you like, and departed in a flurry of leaves. Kushina said, the reason I wanted them gone is because I need you both to answer this question honestly. Are you still a virgin? After glancing at the two girls. Sakura said, I am. Why, Mom? As she glanced at Tenten. Tenten looked at Kushina and replied, yes, why? Kushina grinned and said, good. The reason I asked is because, as the name suggests, it is a summoning that only works if you are virgins. If you summon the creature and you are not a virgin, it will kill you. As you may have heard, I'm originally from Whirlpool, where women were once considered second-class citizens and frequently treated like sex slaves. A priestess who happened to be passing through the area decided to do something that gave women the power to stand up and change the way they were perceived, and she used her knowledge to bring back to life two men who were responsible for thousands of deaths. They were so corrupted by evil that they made what Kyuubi did to Konoha seem like a walk in the park. The priestess created a community and soon women came there to escape their treatments. As time went on, the priestess trained women in the arts of the summoning of those two beings. After the priestess died, her followers stayed true for a while but soon forgot her warning. She made it where you had to be pure to avoid the being's influence. The followers wound up splitting over wanting to have children or staying in the covenant. They wound up destroying themselves except for one girl who was just about your age. That girl was my grandmother and she took the two summonings with her. It has passed down in my family until today. I would give them both to you, Sakura, but I think one is more than enough for you since you only need one at a time, so I will ask you, Sakura, which would you rather have? The summoning that could kill a large group or the one that kills the smaller group? Both have their advantages and disadvantages. The one that kills a large group has to be summoned near water and is a long-range attacker. The one who can kill a large group has to be summoned indoors and is a short-range attacker. Now choose. I don't have any large jutsu or long rang, so I'll take the one that takes out a lot, Sakura remarked after giving it some thought. Why are you letting me have this? Tenten inquired. Kushina replied, I saw you and Naruto on the mountain. I know you care for him and I believe that you are worthy of it for being trustworthy. Now are you okay with the indoor summon? Tenten replied, I am a long-range fighter, so yeah, I could use some close-range help. I need to see your right arms near your shoulders. I have to put a seal on you, Kushina said, nodding. The first thing Tenten said was, I guess I will go first. Kushina nods, begins to perform some hand gestures, bites her thumb, and slams her hand covered in black chakra onto her Tenten arm while saying, transfer of the contract Elm. She had the word, Elm, permanently inked on her arm. Tenten replied, that's not too bad, so how do I summon this thing and how do I control it? According to Kushina, just wipe some blood on the word there and think of the person you want dead, but make sure you only use it if you truly want them dead because it can't be stopped until that person is dead. Even if you are dead, it will also, there is no chakra drain or anything to it, just blood. After Tenten nods, Kushina repeats the procedure, saying, transfer of the contract 13 inches. She then slams her black hand onto Sakura's arm, causing the number 13 to appear. Kushina replied, you are basically the same way, dear. Just wipe your blood on the number 13 and it will summon the creature and think of who you want dead. It won't stop until that person is dead, but remember you have to be by water and don't get in either of their ways or they will kill you. Now remember this, the moment you decide to have sex, never use these summons again. When you are older I will tell you both how to transfer the contracts to either your daughters or to someone you feel is worthy of them, but it must be a virgin female. Sakura inquired, so what are we going to do now, Mom? Kushina stated, for today we will just spend the rest of the day with your brother and getting to know Tenten and allow her to know us. The next time we meet we will spend time visiting as well as training. As Tenten put it, thank you, Mrs. As she stood up, Kushina said, just call me Kushina, that way you don't accidentally slip and say the wrong name. Let's go see Naruto now. The two girls followed her into the backyard, where they discovered Naruto with roughly 500 cage buncheons and a leaf in his hand.
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.